Yeah. Good. Okay, great.
I got the Cerritos thing.
Good, thank you. I figured. We have good delivery people.
Good afternoon, everyone. I apologize that we are starting late. It is 5:38 p.m., and I would like to call this regularly scheduled meeting to order. Madam Secretary, would you please take roll? Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go to the pledge. I have already spoken to our classified Senate representative. Cece, if you would please lead us in the flag salute.
All rise. Right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And now we will go to roll call.
Virginia Baxter,
Here.
Vivian Malauulu,
Here.
Uduak Joe Intuck,
Present.
Doug Otto,
Here.
Sunny Zia,
Here.
and Donnell Jones.
Here.
Okay, item 2.4. We did not take any action on any closed session item. We do have to reconvene after the meeting for a second closed session. Madam Secretary, do I need to let you know which ones we covered and which ones we didn't?
It would be good for the record, please.
Okay, so we did complete item 1.4, item 1.5, item 1.6, and in the second closed session, we will address item 1.7, item 1.8, item 1.9, 1.10, and that'll be all.
Thank you.
Okay, Superintendent President Dr. Romali, do we have any introductions or recognitions this evening?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
And are there any public comments on agenda items?
There are none.
All right, we will move to the approval of the minutes of the November 20th regular Board of Trustee minutes.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Dr. Romali, Superintendent President report.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Dario? We have a quick report tonight in honor of the very long agenda that we have. We've received a lot of already getting nationwide attention on our statewide rankings and our improvement, being the first most improved in the state, and certificates the second most improved in degrees awarded. We're starting to get national attention. We anticipate that it's starting to become a snowball. I continue to receive emails daily on the great work that you guys have done at the college that I'm so proud of. I've already been asked to take a team on the road to conferences to talk about it so that other people can learn from us. And this is the way we pay it forward. We learn it from other people, we do it, and then we pay it forward. So I want to congratulate everyone on that. In the superintendent's report tonight, we had a fantastic groundbreaking at PCC that Chair Malauulu kicked off. It was held this week with over 100 campus community levels. Some features of the parking structure include 33 electric vehicle charging stations, and we have a real focus on being a sustainable campus, so I'm particularly proud of that. We've also got 45 clean air vehicles throughout the structure, so that's really wonderful, and solar panels. So I think we can be very, very proud that we are walking our talk when it comes to sustainability. The college participated in the Belmont Shore Parade, and please mark your calendars. Don't forget that Daisy Lane Parade this Saturday. Our carolers and our cheerleaders are going to be here. We hosted a holiday open house where we kicked off the start of the holiday season, and our jazz combo, brass quintet, and carolers were there. We also had employees who donated food items, so don't forget, if you're having an event, please do not forget, we would love for you to collect canned goods, dry goods for our Viking vaults. We had the Rotary Scholarship Foundation Luncheon on November 21st, and we're able to host 24 scholarship recipients and hear their stories. We have also received our alumni, Dr. Jean-Bernard Durand, who is a professor of medicine at UT Anderson Cancer Center. He's an alum of LBCC. He has received the AACC Outstanding Alumni Award. So that award is going to be presented in March at the conference, so we're very, very proud of him. Janice Hahn, supervisor for Los Angeles, gave her State of the County speech, and many attended, and she mentioned that she has funded $20,000 for LBCC for a peer navigator to help our students, and it's really wonderful. We partook yesterday, the LB Police Foundation, headed by Mr. Bruce Dede McCrae, came through yesterday and gave us $5,000 for bleeding control kits that will no doubt save lives, so we want to thank him. He heads UPS in town. We also, many of you, I know you, Dr. Baxter, really wanted the return of the Long Beach Reads One Book. Mr. George Takai is going to be here on March 19th, and he's going to speak about his book, They Called Us Enemy, about his family's time in the Japanese camps, in the internment camps. In terms of government relations, here is one of my favorite parts of this report. Since getting here and losing 4 tires, I have begged and pleaded for Lou Davis and faculty to be repaved. And thank you to Councilwoman Stacy Mungo, who has added it to her list. $100 later, I'm so thankful to her. She has been a phenomenal help to this college, and she's adding it to the list. She's very generous. I would like to direct you to legislative guides that you have got in front of you. We have prepared legislative guides for each legislative district, and what this does is this goes out and tells each legislator what the impact of our LBCC students have on the economy in their district, so they understand the impact of their voters. So please take a look at that. We will be using that in our lobbying, which we'll be discussing more today. We'd like to congratulate newly elected 1st District Councilwoman Mary Zendejas, and let's keep it moving here. Please be sure to pick up your campus community newsletter, some fantastic work in there. I also want to congratulate the entire team. We are now, this is 57 days out. Okay, so I want to caution you, this is not the beginning of the semester, but in terms of targets for spring FTE, we're up 3.5%. Now that changes daily, but you got to come out of the gate strong, which we have continued to do. Now mind you, Other districts are not up. So all of you who are working on that, you are to be incredibly commended. We are not going to lose that large college status. I also want to tell you, winter, guess what? We're up 3.5%, and we are
Wow.
not 57 days out from winter, as you can tell from outside. So congratulations, everybody. XFL, as you know, we are nearing completion, the end of negotiations with XFL to have the Veterans Memorial Stadium as their practice field for the LA Wildcats. So that's really congratulations as well. We've also been asked, we've had a real renaissance of data analytics here at the college, and we've been using data analytics in virtually everything we do. The word's been out, and I've been asked by the head of the Southern Association of College and University Business Officers to make a presentation to all of the Southern group of CFOs and CBOs for colleges and universities on how we use analytics to do predictive modeling and how to understand data to help inform decisions. So that's very exciting to be able to pay that forward. And I want to let you know we welcomed in Commissioner Jeff Kellogg 2 nights ago in the Personnel Commission, and Lakewood Celebrates was also held this week, and we just finished up our President's Task Force on Equity and Inclusion, and it has been absolutely incredible. I can say we have laughed, we've cried, we've hugged, and we have learned, most importantly. And that's what we're all about, is to never stop learning. Last of all, no matter what you celebrate this time of the year, I celebrate Hanukkah, and many of you celebrate Christmas, many of you celebrate Kwanzaa. No matter what you celebrate, I wish you a wonderful, happy holidays and an end to your year, and just want to say thank you for working so hard in what has been a record-breaking semester for LBCC. This is you, and this is your hard work, and I just want you to know that it's acknowledged and thanked and truly appreciated, most important, not only by everyone up here on the dais, but most importantly by our students who crossed the stage because of you. So thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Dr. Romali. That was an excellent report. And now we will move on to our ASB report. Come on up, Alyssa.
Thank you, Madam President, and good evening to everyone. I wanted to spend most of my report tonight highlighting some of the accomplishments that the Cabinet has had this semester. Our PCC Vice President, Ian Rubenstein, became the SSCCC's Legislative Affairs Director for our region. Our rep of the SPS, Christina Blaskova, was recently elected as the SSCCC's Abled Caucus Chair. Our rep of Sustainability, Jenna Jimenez, was actually crowned Miss Southern California Cities a couple weeks ago. Many of our cabinet members were awarded leadership awards, with both of our vice presidents being awarded Viking Awards, while myself, the student trustee, and the rep of the Sustainability received the Star Award. Several of us cabinet members will be finishing this semester with GPAs over 3.0, with more than half of us carrying 12 units or more. All of us juggle jobs, families, academics, and other responsibilities on top of our duties. I hope to compile a presentation of all of our in-betweens at the next board meeting, but for now I wanted to spend a sliver of time to really highlight the incredible individuals I've been fortunate in leading this semester. We've learned a lot this semester, and I have high hopes for what's in store for us in the spring. That's the end of my report.
Very good, Tanissa. Alyssa, thank you. And our student trustee, Donnell?
Hello, greetings everyone. That time of the month again. As always, I thank you for joining us this evening. It is with mixed emotions that I announce that this will be my final report as a student trustee. But before I get to the mushy stuff, let me report on some real business first. As promised at the September meeting, I reached out to the city clerk's office, the October meeting. I reached out to the city clerk's office to get the results from the National Voter Registration Day event that we hosted here on this campus. And I'm glad to report back to you what we were able to do this year. To give a little bit of context, since 2012, the fourth Tuesday of every September has been recognized as National Voter Registration Day. For the past few years, our campus has welcomed city officials and volunteers to help our students ensure that they are adequately prepared to participate in the democratic process by helping them get registered. This year, we were successful in getting 387 students registered between our two campuses. And these numbers are astronomical compared to our 2017 and 2018 numbers, which were 91 and 34 registrations respectively. So I'd like to thank the team that came together to help out with that, our ASB, our faculty and staff, our administrators, our very own trustee, board president, Amala Ulu, for being there and making that event a success. And so now, back to the mushy stuff. My time in service to our campus, our students, and community at large has been a tremendous honor. I'm grateful for the invaluable lessons I've learned, for the relationships that I've established during my brief tenure. I would like to thank each of the trustees here for the wisdom and insight you all have helped to instill within me. And I'm hoping to carry these lessons and these wisdoms into a future through academia, but hopefully into a future career in public service. I would also like to thank the staff, the faculty, and our administrators, and the executive team members with whom I've had the opportunity to partner and address student and community affairs. I hope my future colleagues will exude the same passion and sense of duty that many of you have modeled. I would also like to thank our wonderful team of student leaders that have served alongside me the past year and a half. Working with dedicated, hardworking, and caring leaders such as yourselves has made this experience truly unforgettable. Lastly, I would like to personally thank Dr. Janae Hun, Dr. Matthew Lawrence, Dr. Jerome Hunt, and the many others who have helped mentor me through this labyrinth of academia and leadership. I truly could not have done it without all of you. Before I vacate my seat, I would like to announce that I've been working with our ASB president to identify a potential candidate who will serve the remainder of my term. Our very own Rep of Legislative Affairs, Matt Chisholm, he's here in the audience. You mind standing up so everyone can see who you are? Matt joined us late in the term, starting early this semester. But since he's come on board, he's really hit the ground running.
Absolutely.
And has gotten himself acquainted with the several levels of rules and guidelines that go into this. He's really done a phenomenal job of preparing himself to step into this role. Hopefully that will be the case come January. It's still pending the formal vote of the ASB cabinet at our next meeting. With that, I'd like to thank you guys all once again for allowing me the opportunity to serve this community. And thank you. That's the end of my report.
Thank you, Donnell. We will miss you and we wish you the very best. I'm sure you will make LBCC very proud in your future endeavors. But you're still here tonight, so.
Could I see some?
Absolutely.
Okay. Danelle, congratulations. I think you need to tell the audience, are you still going to UC Berkeley?
I am.
Okay, well, I just don't want them to think you're going on the unemployment somewhere. And you're one of the sharpest student trustees we've had in a long time. You're very thoughtful, you're very innovative, and I salute you, and I wish you the very, very best, and I want you to come back and report to us how things are going in Berkeley.
Will do. Thank you so much.
And sharp as dresser, too, I just have to add. Trustee Entek?
Yeah, I just want to congratulate Trustee Jones. It's been a pleasure working with you the last year, almost year and a half. You have a bright future. We look forward to all the great things you're going to do. Appreciate your policy agenda of e-textbooks and affordability for students, doing the future of work forum and talking about where jobs are and helping your fellow students figure out where are the opportunities and what's the right majors to be in. You've really demonstrated some great leadership and intellect, and I'm looking forward to hopefully you'll join the Student Senate at UC Berkeley. My wife was in there, and I always hear "Go Bears" all day, so hopefully next time we talk, I'll hear that from you.
Thank you.
I'll go after you.
Trustee Otto?
Yeah, it's been a real honor to serve with you on this body, and I've watched you grow. I've watched you develop agendas. I think you've been very, very thoughtful about how it is that you can help your fellow students, and I respect that a great deal. We will miss you. We hope that you'll come back. I'm going to be watching you up there at Berkeley. I've got lots of family up in the area, and we're up there on a regular basis. So I know what you're capable of. You did a great thing last summer when you went on to that internship in the Midwest, and congratulations for all you've done.
Thank you so much.
Trustee Zia?
I wanted to also echo the sentiment of my fellow board members. Donnell, I'm so proud of you. I hope you continue to fight for the little guy, the good, true, and beautiful, and the underserved. And you've been a big fighter for equity. It is more important than ever that we have someone like you to champion that going forward, given the dark times that we're in. And I really hope you consider running for public office, because I see it. You have the it factor. It's in your DNA, and you can really do tremendous work.
Thank you so much. My goal is to replace Clarence Thomas on the Supreme Court one day, so we'll see.
It would be far less controversial.
Right?
Good deal. Thank you very much. And now we have our LBCC FA bargaining report, please.
Hello, everybody, and happy holidays. FA would also like to congratulate you, Donnell, and say best wishes to you in your new endeavor. And even though I went to UCLA and I'm a Bruin, that's okay. You can be the big bear. So it's hard to believe that 4 months ago it was the beginning of the semester, and now here we are in the last week of the semester, and instructional faculty are preparing, grading finals. The student services faculty is assisting students in enrolling and selecting courses for winter and spring. So as we all celebrate the great gains we've made in increasing certificates and degrees, FA would again like to thank Dr. O'Malley and her team for providing leadership and encouraging and innovative and creative thinking on the part of the faculty to help increase and deliver student success. Last month, soon-to-be Dr. Ladera Barbie addressed all of you and talked a little bit about what the math department is doing to redesign courses as well as offer boot camps for students. This month, I'd like to give a shout out to the English department in how they are researching and offering accelerated classes so that we can help our students finish quicker and faster, as well as they've been participating in community workshops discussing how better to support our students in their endeavor. So in this last 4 months, I've introduced you to faculty reps from the anthropology department, fire science, math, and tonight I have a faculty member from the English department to talk about his experience. So at this point, I'd like to introduce newly tenured Brian Garcia, who is the rep from the English department.
Good evening. I'm not being rude, I just have some notes on my phone that I'm going to pull up here. So yeah, good evening. I'm Brian Garcia. I'm a fourth year English professor and faculty representative, or faculty association representative for the English department. Particularly grateful to be here now, having just finished my final tenure review last week. So, before coming to Long Beach City College, as a full-time instructor, I was an adjunct for 8 years in one form or another at various campuses, including Cal State Long Beach, Orange Coast College, Laguna College of Art and Design, and UC Irvine, which is where I got my master's and my PhD. Before that, I was at Cal State Fullerton for my bachelor's degree, but I started my higher education right here in 1999 at Long Beach City College. So as a first generation college student who was pretty aimless and lost in my first years of college, I have a pretty strong sense of how many of our students feel coming into college, either straight out of high school or after a long absence from education or mid-career sometimes. For that reason, I'm very proud to be at an institution and in a department that's working so hard to help our students succeed, sometimes against the odds. The English department has put in quite a lot of hard work, readying itself for the changes required by AB 705, in fact, going back a few years. Although I don't currently teach any of our accelerated or co-requisite courses, I have in the past 3 years taught English 105AX, which is an accelerated course, and English 12C, which is a course that combines English 105 and 1 into one heavily concentrated, intensive semester. And it is really intense for the students who take it. What I've seen in this process is that our students tend to rise to the challenge that we set. And furthermore, that my colleagues in the English department work tirelessly to guide them along, given the challenges that they might face. This semester, I'm teaching sections of English 105, English 1, and English 3, and although the wide range of varying circumstances can result in a long list of challenges for our students, the vast majority of my students are not only passing, but thriving. I'd love to be able to brag that I've got a knack for turning students into English majors. I wish I had more stories about students like the one who hung back after every English 2 class to ask me questions about Herman Melville and eventually looked up my dissertation online, and I'm pretty sure he's the only person who's ever read my dissertation aside from my dissertation committee, including myself. I'd love to have more students like the one who's currently writing a vampire novel after he became an English major upon returning to college after 10 years away and took my English 2 class. But the fact of the matter is that most students are passing through our composition sequences. So still, there's plenty to be proud of. Like the student who returned after 30 years and proudly earned an A in my course in the same semester that his daughter was graduating from USC. Or the veteran who wrote a brilliant research paper for my English 1 course and then turned it into a grant proposal for a program that provides service dogs to combat veterans. The upshot to all this is that although we can't always know exactly how we're helping our students, we can usually rest assured that we are helping them. I don't have a great story about how I went into this field to help people. I can honestly say that I went into this line of work because I really enjoy literature and language and writing. That's it. But I found that if I can convey some of that to my students and maybe help them with some practical skills and critical thinking, that the possibilities for how they can apply that are endless. And so I'm just really proud to be here, really grateful to be here as an instructor and as faculty association representative. So thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Trustee Baxter has a question for you.
Yeah, Brian, hi.
Sure.
When you were here, did you receive a scholarship?
I did not. No.
Okay, just checking.
I to be quite honest, I wouldn't have even known how to apply. I was really
Well,
lost.
that was not my fault.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. It wasn't. It definitely wasn't.
I'm teasing you, Brian. Don't worry.
All right, thanks.
Thank you very much. Okay, I see Karen here. Is that you, Karen? I'm not wearing my glasses. So we've got, oh, I'm sorry, and I have a tendency for skipping over items on the agenda, huh? So do we have anyone from AFT here? Okay, so Karen, come on up. This is our CHI bargaining president report.
Good evening, Superintendent President Romali, Board President Malulu, and Board of Trustees. Happy holidays to you. I'm happy to report that negotiations between CHI and the district is going well. and we're close to wrapping up the collective bargaining agreement. Actually, both teams have been ready to wrap up bargaining, and we were hopeful that this could have happened sooner than it is happening. It seems that while CHI has the authority to make decisions at the table, the district's team does not. So we wait while the district's team must report back to the Board of Trustees before we return to the table next week. The part-time faculty is the most contingent group of employees. This gives administrators incredible flexibility as we are not considered part of the permanent staff, nor are we on the path to tenure track positions. We are hired on an as-needed basis to meet enrollment demands, whether enrollment is increasing or declining. Regardless of any decisions made at the table, part-time faculty are the first to lose their jobs when the budget is cut. We help you minimize costs, so making us wait because the district team must report back to the Board of Trustees before we can ratify a tentative agreement seems unjustifiable. Actually, decent treatment of adjuncts helps your bottom line. Please don't marginalize us further by using micromanaging tactics to delay negotiations. Thank you. I'm going to introduce you right now to Lauren Madden. She has been the CHI representative on Academic Senate and has come in with us on the bargaining team.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm a little nervous, my first time speaking at a board meeting, but I am here to speak about the bargaining contract between CHI and the district. It is no secret the conditions that adjuncts have to deal with across the country. Everyone is fully aware of it. I won't go into details. CHI had proposed paying adjuncts 4 hours per class per semester, and this was turned down. Just today, I spent from 6:30 in the morning until right before this meeting working. I was preparing final exams, grading past assignments, meeting with students for last-minute questions and edits to their papers, and responding to numerous emails, as well as attending 2 class sessions. The fact that all of this work goes unpaid and the school takes advantage of all this free labor is one of the most egregious forms of labor exploitation today, in my opinion. The literacy levels, written and comprehension skills of many of our students are not at college level. Therefore, the process of grading takes extended time. We are not expected to only provide Scantron graded assignments. We are expected to require students to submit written assignments that need to be properly graded and require significant time. If the district doesn't want to provide additional hours to cover these things, at the very least, supporting an hourly wage increase will help. I personally would like to get paid for the work I do. It is about human dignity and respect, but most of all, it is directly related to student success. Thank you so much.
Thank you both. And at this time, I will entertain any motions to reorder the agenda. And I know that we have 2 items that need to be moved up at staff request. Does the board have any other item they'd like to move up?
Just to move up the presentations, I think it was 5.1 and 5.2. Was there another one that was travel restricted? Or
So one is 5.1 is
5.1?
the legislative update, and then 10.1, the annual audit. Those are the 2 that we do have guests in the audience
Can we
for.
move the 3 of those up next in the agenda?
Yes, so the first one that you wanted is
The presentation 5.1,
5.1.
legislative update, 5.2, personnel commission annual report, and 10.2, the district audit, annual audit report.
Okay, will you make that motion, please?
Then move to that motion, if.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to move items 5.1, 5.2, and 10.1 up on the agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so at this time, we'll go to item 5.1.
Can I just quickly raise a point of order, and that is, So this is listed as an information item, and we just took action on it. Do we have to, in order to reorder the agenda, do we have to take action, or can we just agree to reorder the agenda?
Well, I was asked by staff to reorder the agenda, so as a courtesy, I open it up to the board in case the board has any opposition to it.
Consensus, basically, but it turns out like a vote, but it's,
Okay.
we
Then-
probably
then it
should leave.
Then it should say action item.
For reordering the agenda should say action item, actually,
We need to follow up on that. You're correct.
in the future, because we do have it as procedural, and if we're going to be taking motions, I agree with trustee Otto. That's a good point. You must be an attorney.
I deny that.
All right, welcome, Dale. We're moving up item 5.1. This is our legislative update, and you have a flight to catch, am I right?
Yes,
Okay,
thank
so we will try to not delay you.
Okay. Thank you very much. For the record, my name is Dale Shimasaki. I work with Strategic Education Services in Sacramento as the legislative representative for the Long Beach Community College District. And let me just take the opportunity to thank you for giving us the opportunity to work again with you this year and for the upcoming legislative session. We enjoy working with this district and with you folks on the initiatives that you are concerned and interested in. And we look forward to working with you this upcoming year. The presentation is divided into two principal parts. One is to talk about the activities which took place this last session, and then talk about what's going to happen for the 2020 year. The first item I wanted to update folks on is that we were successful in getting approved 2 capital outlay projects, the construction trades building at the Pacific Coast campus, which was included in the January budget. But what was not included in the budget that we fought to add to the capital outlay program for community college is the music theater complex, which was successfully added in this year's budget. The big ticket items that were included in the budget you're pretty familiar with. The 3.26% COLA, and then funding for a second year of the California College Promise, which provides second year of free tuition for participating students. There was also a big infusion of monies from the non-Proposition 98 side of the budget to reduce the unfunded liability in the CalSTRS and CalPERS program. Legislatively, there were many bills. There were some 150 bills that went through related to community colleges. We selected these 5 bills just to give you a sense of what the tenor of the legislature was on community college legislation, and I'll go into some detail with these 5 pieces. The first was, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, there was the California Promise to fund a full second year of funding for first-time, full-time students in the community college system. In addition, there was a bill, AB2, by Assemblymember Santiago, which was requested for by the Student Financial Aid Officers Association to allow disabled students who carried fewer than 12 units to be able to participate in the program. And this bill did get signed into law. Second was dual enrollment. There was an effort to extend the dual enrollment sunset date. We initially tried to repeal the sunset date, but there was a legislative analyst report that hasn't been completed yet, so the legislative staff and the Assembly Higher Education Committee recommended that we just extend the sunset date by 5 years. But that is nonetheless
Did you say
still
5
good.
years?
5 years. So it will be in place until the 2027 year. Another major initiative which occurred in the closing days of the session was the approval of an education bond for preschool through higher education. It's a $15 billion bond that will be placed on the March ballot. Of the $15 billion, $2 billion of that it will be for community college facilities. A bill which didn't pass and is still in the Senate Appropriations Committee is 720, which provides for instructional service agreements with public safety agencies. Under the there was a glitch in the new student-centered funding formula where these programs will only get funded at 60% of what the normal rate was prior to the new formula. and we tried to put in legislation to address that, but it is hung up on in the Senate Appropriations Committee based on opposition from the Department of Finance. Another initiative which will have strong major implications in the community college system is to have a student financial aid program that will be administered by the community college system as opposed to the Student Aid Commission. The intent of this program is to try to cover more than just student fees and tuition. So this bill has a major price tag of some $2 billion. Obviously, this is a major ticket item. There's a companion bill on the Cal Grant program by Mr. Medina being introduced, and both authors, Senator Leyva and Mr. Medina, decided to wait a year to work on this with the administration and see if we could get a major package for this year budget. In upcoming issues that will be coming up in legislation, I divided it in two categories. There's fiscal issues, which we'll talk about in some degree here, and then there are policy issues which will emerge. Let me see here, and these are the policy issues. The first fiscal issue I wanted to address is the hold harmless for the student-centered funding formula. And actually, it should be noted that when we put together the new student-centered funding formula, this district took the initiative to raise this issue, and if it hadn't been for your district effort to put this provision in, this provision would not exist. But it was to put a hold harmless provision should there be extreme declines in enrollment with a COLA. And we were the ones, this district was the one that initiated this concern, recognizing the trends in enrollment, and this provision got put in, but it's only for a limited time. And we'd like to see this hold harmless protection be given to you and to the state on a permanent basis. The second issue is on the...
Dale, can I ask you a quick question about that before
Sure.
we move on? So I remember when the new funding formula came into existence that there was a period of time where there was a hold harmless, part of the original bill.
Right.
But then it was extended because they realized that there were problems that were created.
Right.
And I think that we were going to extend it again, and now there's an effort to make it permanent.
Permanent, to guarantee a minimum floor so districts could know how to plan and operate future years. When you're left hanging in the balance, not knowing where your enrollments are going to go, as you know, it makes planning for curriculum and classes very difficult to come by.
So what's the permanent hold harmless bill number, and who's the sponsors?
There isn't a bill number yet.
Okay.
The proposal that will be aired will probably be incorporated into the budget. So when the state budget comes out, that would be the best place to include it, and that way it avoids going through all the policy committees. But if we go straight to the budget, we could get it done. And you only require a majority vote to take effect immediately.
Okay. And who's leading the charge on that in Sacramento?
We don't have a designated person yet, but the people we'll be advocating with are Assemblymember McCarty, Assemblymember O'Donnell is on that committee, who represents your area. Right. And on the Senate side, the committee chair is Senator Roth from the Inland Empire area.
So no specific sponsors, but it's going to go to both ed committees in the Senate and the Assembly, and
yes,
good.
On the ed budget committees, yes.
Right. Okay, great. Thank you.
The second issue is on sorry.
Dale, I was just going to add, Trustee Otto, you are correct. Dale, I want to give you full credit. You were very kind there, but you deserve a tremendous amount of credit. It's true that the Chancellor's Office had a small period of hold harmless, but it was due to the heavy lobbying on behalf of Long Beach City College that they knew, oh, there's a problem, and decided to give it a longer hold harmless. That was Long Beach City College, and that was our lobbying, and that was your lobbying, Dale, and I think that everyone who did that lobbying deserves credit. We are now also seeing that there are continued problems with the state student-centered funding formula that we told them about several years ago, by the way. And we are banding together with several other districts because we believe there should be a permanent hold harmless. So we will be lobbying for that and trying to put together some legislation on that. We're very interested in getting the board's opinion on these legislative priorities tonight, and I got a feeling you're going to be right behind that, helping us with that. And so, Dale, I think that you and the entire lobbying team deserve credit for that.
Thank you.
You're very modest.
Thank you. The second issue is on the faculty obligation number, and it's a target to on the minimum number of full-time faculty that must be employed to avoid a reduction in your apportionment. The issue here is that enrollments are declining in the community colleges, and it puts stress on the district to continue to hire and add more full-time faculty when enrollments are declining. So this proposal would try to get some relief to go to a 3-year moving average so you can smooth out the increases and declines in enrollments and have faculty hired based on that 3-year moving average. The third fiscal issue we talked about already is the LEVA bill on financial aid and the Murasuchi bill on instructional service agreements for public safety agencies. These bills didn't make it through the end process of the legislature, and they'll be taken up next year during session. Some of the policy issues are coming up that warrant attention, and on this one, it's not just a Long Beach City College issue, but this is happening in nursing programs throughout this region, as I understand it. South Orange County Community College District is experiencing the same problem, where there's a huge growth in for-profit colleges, and as a result, they're putting in a number of placements in clinics and hospitals, and they're displacing community college students from these clinical placement programs. And that puts tension on your nursing programs to be able to serve your students. So this is something that has come up and is going to be addressed in the legislature, not just by the legislature, but also by the Board of Registered Nursing. They're extremely concerned about this as well.
I'm sorry. I just went to the CCLC conference. We talked about this. What authority does the Board of Registered Nursing have over for-profit nursing schools?
They have the authority to review the proposals for growth in adding the number of placements and giving colleges the permission to add the number of placements. So two things are happening. One is that the for-profit colleges want to repeal that authority so that they could grow unregulated and unfettered. The second thing is for-profit colleges successfully requested and got a legislative audit of the Board of Registered Nursing. They accused the board of being biased against for-profit colleges. From what we could see, it's not really being biased, is that they were approving and making decisions that the for-profit colleges didn't like. So that's what the controversy is. There was a bill that was introduced to try to repeal the authority and reduce the authority of the Board of Registered Nursing, but it stalled and didn't get out of policy committee.
Okay, because I was told that for-profit colleges have been making significant donations to various healthcare agencies, and I would like to see, is anyone studying that?
That's accurate.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to be careful when I said it and said allegations, but it seems to me that the board should be looking at that too, because that seems to be an unfair advantage.
Yes. Yes, I agree.
Okay, thanks, Dale.
You mentioned there was an audit that they requested of the Board of Registered Nurses.
Yeah.
Has that audit, have the findings been published?
No, it was approved by the Joint Legislative Audit Committee last summer, and the results won't be available until this year at the earliest. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. The next issue is the issue of the student vote at Board of Trustees meeting. There is discussion going on that there will be legislation to grant student trustees the authority to vote on all matters on local board meetings. There are two policy issues, at least two policy issues that have raised concerns here. Is the first being that by doing that, you create an even number of board members at each of the local district levels. So the question is, does that mean that if a student vote is added, do you have to add another vote on top of that for each of the local districts? The second thing is the issue of representation. As you know, community college students are adults, so they're not restricted by district boundaries. They could, a student in West Los Angeles could come here and go to college. A student in Santa Monica could go to East LA, et cetera, et cetera. So the question is, when students vote on issues, jurisdictional issues, such as a tax issue, what's the degree of representation of that vote? Are they representing students who might have voted for this trustee or asked this trustee to be appointed, but they all live outside the district? So there are some constitutional issues here that need to be resolved. There isn't a formal proposal in writing that we've seen yet, but based on the concept, without knowing how they're going to resolve the governance issues, this would be a bill that the district would have concerns about in terms of implementation. Another policy area is giving you more flexibility to do joint use activities with other community college districts, other K-12 local education agencies, where you could do work with your neighboring colleges, offering classes together under joint use, and then claiming FTES funding under a joint use. There's no real accommodation for that right now, and it's something that would have to be worked out through Title V or legislation. Another issue that's come up here in the district is first responders want to enroll in public safety classes, which are part of continuing education requirement. There's concerns about issuing or having them register and where they put their personal address in for registering for courses. We're looking to see if it's acceptable to use their office address as an alternative to do this. And we're trying to work out whether there's any barriers that exist in Title V right now to do that. And if there are, we would try to address it through Title V, or we would have to address it through legislation. And then next is the issue of a strong workforce facility, to look at the possibility of having another joint venture where you'd have a strong workforce facility in partnerships with other neighboring colleges. And the question is, how is that financed, and then how do you generate the revenue for that, and how do you share the revenues for that when you put that kind of facility together? So those are the concluding slides that I have. So I'm available to answer any other questions.
Okay, one more question.
Trustee Otto, and then Trustee Jones.
Very quickly, so in January, some of us will be visiting Sacramento to do lobbying. Do you have any thoughts at this point about what you think the priorities are, or who we should go see and all that? I know that'll all be worked out.
Yes, we've prepared a tentative legislative priority sheet for you all to review tonight to make sure you're in agreement with this. This is our suggested agenda. We can take any changes, recommendations, deletions, and then we will be working on that over the next month. But this is what we've pretty much got so far. We do have meetings with Compton, Cerritos, and ELAC set up to explore further this concept of a proposed facility along the LA River. My questions before we were to lobby for something like this is, I would not want us to lose any of our points in our state projects or have it go against us in terms of space usage. I also need to make sure that it would not be funded through our bond funds, which wouldn't be appropriate. I also need to make sure that the operational expenses are something that we could support, and then what the types of revenue sharing for that would be. We do have meetings over the next month or so to kind of work out those details that I can bring back to you at the January meeting. Right now, it sounds like a good idea as long as it doesn't hit us that way. But these are the suggested priorities as of today.
Do you think it will require legislation to do it, or can it just be
Yes.
done by agreement?
Yes, what we'd like to do is ask for a cutout, a separate funding for that project. Riverside has done that. El Camino did that for its fire tower. What we want to do is just have it as a cutout where we get funded for it, so it doesn't count on our space allocation. That sounds good if we can work it out that way. There would be strong workforce programs there, but Marlene needs to get into the nitty-gritty with those other 3 CBOs to crunch the numbers just to make absolute sure it works for us before we go lobby for it.
Great.
Perfect. Trustee, student trustee?
Thank you for the update on the legislative priorities that are going on here within our district. I had a couple of quick questions for you. First, I'm glad to see that the district is agreeing to support SB 291 moving forward. This is a huge opportunity for our students, again, as stated here, to kind of defray some of the cost of college attendance. I am disappointed to see that there was no support for Assembly Bill 302 that would allow students a safe place to park for those who are unhoused. Again, because of current municipal codes, opening up our parking lots would be invaluable to our students who are houseless. So if there's support for something like this, a stopgap measure, in the meantime, I know that there's support for student housing funds moving forward, which is amazing. Something as a stopgap, being able to support students having a safe place to park would be huge. So I would like to see our district support something along those lines. The question I guess I do have is, why was there no support included for AB 302? First, before I move on to my other question.
Is AB 302 the student parking?
Correct.
It has been declined.
It's been declined.
It is not moving forward at the state level.
Okay.
It's on the, AB 302 is on the Senate inactive file right now.
Right. It's on the inactive file, which means that it can be pulled back off at a later date by the bill author. So, and that's why, again, I'm asking for
Oh, I see
our
what you're
support to pull that bill from inactive and to see if we can get that through, again, as a stopgap measure for our students while we develop other
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
resources.
You can certainly add it to the priorities list. I think the feeling among the universities and colleges is it's going to cost us over $2.5 million out of our general fund, which we do not have now. And the feeling that is going around the state is it's going to cost over $50 million statewide to implement this, and to spend $50 million to put someone in a car in a parking lot rather than spending $50 million to put someone in a housing solution. What I think the feeling was around the state was, let's house them. Let's get them out of their cars and into homes. And if we're going to spend a huge multi-million dollars to do it, let's get them housed. So I think the sentiment around the state was, come up with something better. Don't our homeless students deserve better than to park in a car overnight? Don't they deserve a roof over their head? Let's go back and demand more for our homeless students, is what the sentiment was. And that is certainly my sentiment as well.
Yeah, that's completely understood. Again, something as a stopgap measure, because that's going to take a long time to come to fruition if we see it within our district. So, the other question I have is questioning the institution's stance on the student trustee enfranchisement bill. I understand the arguments that were listed here were matters of representation, as well as students not being living within the district. Again, student trustees represent a constituent just like every other trustee here. I would argue that student trustees represent the most important constituent here, which is the student. Without students, there's no need for our district or institution, and our students do deserve to have full equal voting rights, at least a full vote here on the board moving forward. So would this, is this an effort to nullify the student vote? In a sense, I know the answer is no, but why is the district not behind this enfranchisement bill?
Well, this is a discussion that's taking place. There's no bill introduced as of yet, but
Right.
we have been told through the Community College League of California that there will be some legislation on this, and there's some discussion. So we haven't seen the the details or the frame of what this proposal looks like, but based on the concept, these are the policy concerns that have been raised on it, so.
So I know that the Student Trustee Caucus of California, as well as the Student Senate of California Community Colleges, are taking up this legislation. So I would wonder again if our district had any interest in working alongside these institutions and these student groups to represent and push for student enfranchisement again.
You're asking me that?
That was
I
the
think
question.
that's for
I
the
don't know
board
who
to
would be
decide.
appropriate to answer that question.
I think that's up to the board to decide.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Trustee Antec?
Yeah, thank you. On the AB 720, what's the likelihood of that going forward? Where do the funds come to go from 60 to 100%?
Well, the problem with that bill is that Department of Finance is opposed, and that's the reason it's been stopped. So we're trying to work through the Department of Finance to find a way to get them to remove their opposition. But right now, that's a steep climb. So it'll be a tough one to try to get through. Now, the one thing they did say is that there's this student-centered funding formula advisory committee that's comprised of different representatives from the community college system. They said if they have a recommendation that would be supportive of changing this part of the funding formula, they would be willing to take a look at it. But I don't have a good gauge as to when that advisory committee is going to complete its work. They were supposed to complete it last year and they didn't. So it's a question of the timing of how soon that the advisory committee get their work done. But I think on the items that you will come with in January for your lobby day, your advocacy day, you should bring that up because, as you know, there's some 20 or 30 other districts that joined in support of this bill.
Trustee Ntek, I am 100% with you on this. I feel very strongly about this. The student-centered funding formula disadvantages districts who want to do training for local police and fire. The community college system is the place where community policing and fire should be able to get their education through free and easy access. And forcing them into a four-year institution is, frankly, an offensive equity issue to me. So, Trustee Ntek, I know you feel very strongly about this, and I feel exactly the same way you do. So structuring that funding formula the way it's appropriate so that our local law enforcement and fire can come to local community colleges and we can be paid fairly on that. I think it's going to be an uphill battle, so I am very glad. I'll let the board speak for themselves if we can support that.
And to follow up on that, what is the typical method of defining a new funding mechanism? Is it just what falls under Prop 98 funding, or would this be a potential assessment or
Well,
fee?
there's two pieces. The first piece is the Prop 98 component determines how much revenues goes to the community colleges and K-12 education, and then 11% of that goes to the community college system. Within that 11%, that amount, the student-centered funding formula allocates that amount to all the different districts. So it's a two-step process. You get the Prop 98 guarantee set, then that portions out what goes to K-12, what goes to community colleges, and then when the community college pot gets set, then the student-centered funding formula kicks in.
I guess I'm thinking of next November, and we still got the session coming up for next year. If the Make It Fair or split roll ballot measure passes, I know there's additional funding coming to schools and cities and counties. I guess may that be another time to revisit, or with those expected revenues, would that increase the number of Prop 98 funding that could pay for it?
Yeah, absolutely. If one of those initiatives are voted on and approved by the voters, that will increase the Prop 98 pot. Both of them will. The split roll will add $4 billion to Prop 98. It was formerly titled the CSBA initiative, but CSBA withdrew. But the personal income tax and corporate income tax increase, that was $15 billion for Prop 98. So there are two big measures, but the personal income tax, corporate income tax was the one that was more favorable to the schools. So, but there hasn't been a final decision on which one will be placed on the ballot yet.
And then lastly, following up, I know new items will be introduced, come January and numbers assigned. When is the right time for us as a board to take up the discussion of what bills we officially and formally support or oppose? Because I see a lot of what we will be doing of items that we've never discussed at the board level before. When is the right time for us to have those conversations?
So the calendar, the legislature returns Monday, January 6th. I think the 20th of January is the deadline for legislators to submit proposals, written proposals into the Legislative Council. Legislative Council puts them into legalese, and then February, I think 24th is the date at which a bill must be in print to be considered for the legislative session. So in the months of March and April are very good times to review legislative proposals and see what they look like, because they have until, I think, April or May to get it through the first policy committee. So you would want to look at the bill reports for March, in the month of March, to start culling through them. So.
Yeah, we have this is our first presentation for you guys to look and consider and see if we're heading in the right direction or if you want us to make any adjustments. We also do, on the board calendar, we'll be coming back in February for the same discussion to take another temperature check as we head into that February-March timeframe to see where your head is on that.
Is there any March ballot measures from the legislature that's education related?
Just the bond.
Just
Yeah,
the new Prop 13?
Huh?
The new Prop 13?
Yeah. This is just the education bond will be on the March ballot. That relates to education, so there won't be anything else that I'm aware of.
Okay, and that's the O'Donnell bill.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Dale, I'd like to thank you very much for coming down and for being accessible to us. And I'd also like to commend Dr. Romali. This is a great idea to have a legislative update. And if we could make it an annual thing, perhaps we can make a decision if December is the most appropriate time, because I know that the legislature is on break, or if there's another appropriate time. But, it's never been done before, and I really appreciate the opportunity to have to look forward to a legislative update. And I concur with what you've all said, that we definitely need an opportunity to weigh in on some of these items and measures, and make sure that we are in agreement as a board what we will and won't support. So thank you very much, Dr. Romali. Excellent idea. Dale, great job. Thank you. Have a safe flight home.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we're going to move up item 10.1 because we do have the auditors waiting. We're going to skip over 5.2 momentarily, and we'll go to item 10.1, which is regarding our annual audit.
If I may, President Malauulu, introduce Ms. Heather McGee from Clifton Larson Allen, our auditors, and she'll be presenting to you the results of our 2018-19 audits.
Hello, good evening. Thank you for having me come out tonight to present the audit report. We did meet with the audit committee on December 2nd, and we went through the report thoroughly. So tonight we prepared a PowerPoint presentation to point out the highlights. Of course, at the end of the presentation, if there's something you've seen in the audit report that you have a question about that I didn't cover in my presentation, feel free to ask that question at that time. We can address it. So the financial statements are done primarily for the independent auditor's report. The district has received an unmodified opinion, and that is referred to in slang terms as a clean opinion. The audit report consists of several different components of the financials. One of those sections being the management discussion and analysis. So this is prepared by management, and it discusses the highlights between last year's financial statements and the current year's financial statements, as well as looking out into the future of upcoming events. The financial statements, there's actually 3 sets of financial statements. You have your governmental fund, your fiduciary fund, and you have your other post-employment benefit funds. Here's some of the highlights of the financial statements and footnotes. A couple of key components to point out to you. It's important for the Board of Trustees to know that there's no audit adjustments to the financial statements. So on page 74, there is a reconciliation in that statement that is present. Another key area to point out that's important to know is if there's any findings or not. There are 2 findings this year, but I really want to highlight that the findings are not the main objective of the financial statements. They're a byproduct of the financial statements. So there's a lot of regulatory agencies that go into the financial statements, which covers federal compliance and state compliance. So there is one federal compliance finding, and that has to do with our audit of the Small Business and Development Center and the procurement procedures. So the district has a very thorough procedure manual. However, the federal government, the uniform guidance had changed a couple of years ago, and there was one micro purchase that was not addressed in the manual. So management has been assertive in addressing this, and that has already been implemented and is posted online. Also, for state compliance, we had a dual enrollment finding, and as previous presenter had discussed, the district is in hold harmless, so there's no monetary effect on that. What dual enrollment is when you have the K-12 students also attending college courses. The college is allowed to do that, and it's actually a strategic measure to have them come and get familiar with coming to the community college. There's just a level of how much can be claimed for that. So it was a very minor detail or minor amount, but there is no monetary effect to this. And just an important reminder that there are 2 new standards that are coming out that will be effective next year, and we'll continue to work with management on those standards. Have any questions about something you saw in the financial statements or questions on the presentation? Can address that?
Does anyone have any questions? Trustee Otto?
This isn't really directly to the audit, but I just want to, as I periodically do, remind us that our contributions to CalPERS and STRS are going up very rapidly in the next few years. That's something that we have to be cognizant of, and the reporting requirements mean that we have to show what these things are. We're also, not just in terms of retirement expenses, but in terms of retiree health care benefits, there's new stuff about that, but I'm watching districts up and down the state, both K through 12 districts and community college districts, and with declining enrollments and the need to pay more monies, it creates issues that we've got to be steadfast about. That's all. Not an audit related thing.
Well, there is a big chunk of the financial statements that are dedicated to that topic.
Right.
I have a question. Thank you so much for the presentation. On the 2 findings, one was SBDC related, and the other one was dual enrollment. With the finding that there are solutions or improvement strategies itemized, can you talk to that a little bit more about each of those?
So the federal finding had to do with procurement procedures. So the procurement manual has been updated to address that requirement. It was just a $10,000 threshold, and sometimes auditors come in and have the Midas touch. I think it was like a $12,000 purchase that we identified that didn't go through that under that procedure. So all in all, like if you were to get a finding, these are the findings you would like to see. When you have state compliance, let me back up. When you have an internal control finding or financial statement finding, there's a dollar threshold associated with it. When you're talking about state compliance finding, you're either in compliance or you're not in compliance. So we're given specific steps to address and verify when we're performing those procedures. And that was what was
You
identified.
talking about the dual enrollment finding?
Right.
It was just the process
So at
was
one point, yes, so the district always replies to the findings and what their responses would be. So at one time, there were controls in place to make sure that the 10% limit on the claiming of the dual enrollment students was in place, and that did not get identified this year. So the dean over that area has re-implemented that control, and she has a response in the audit report.
So that ends up being like a mid-semester check and saying, yes, we're under 10%, or?
Right. There's probably a lot of checkpoints when you're preparing the attendance reporting. That I'm sure that'll get added to that.
It wasn't that we got more than 10%, we just didn't check. That's what it was?
You can only claim up to 10% of the enrollment.
And we claim beyond that.
Because it was only 2.14 FTEs. So if you were to look at percentage-wise, I think it's like 0.001.
It's very low.
A very, very insignificant amount. But the chancellor's office, the way that the contracting district audit manual is written, any finding regardless of the amount needs to be reported. So that goes back to the statement, either in your compliance or you're not in compliance. There's no dollar threshold.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I also want to thank you for, I know when the audit subcommittee met last Monday with Trustee Otto and myself, I had to have a lot of clarification because of the background that I have as a trustee for my union. The audits are so much different than the audits for the college. And, you know, I really appreciate the enlightenment. I'd attended a couple of these audit subcommittees in the past, but I didn't really have a voice. So it was nice to be able to ask questions, and thank you for the information. And I appreciate the work that you do. And I'm sure the college really appreciates the time that you've spent really just preparing this report and making it concise and understandable, which we talked about. So thank you very much.
Sure.
Anybody else? All
We
right,
have the
thank
prop
you.
Reports. We have the two prop reports next.
Yes.
I'll make a motion.
If I may, we have a total of 3 audit reports that have been, or audits rather, that have been performed by Clifton Larson Allen. And so the first, the primary one we all know about, our big internal audit report, but we'll go through 2 more that are very important and relevant as well.
Thank you. So back in 2000, the voters had approved that for Proposition 39 for districts to issue those type of general obligation bonds, that they had to have a separate audit performed. So these are the reports of that requirement. So the first audit is the financial audit, and similar to the district financials, we also give an opinion on the bond construction fund. So that has received a modified opinion. And also similar, you have the basic balance sheet, the statement of revenue, expenses, and changes in fund balance, and the various notes to the financial statements. And also an important point to point out that in regards to the bond construction fund, that there are no findings related to those funds this year. The second report is to performance. So it's different than the financials. It's not focused on what is the balance sheet, what is the income statement. Its focus is really looking at the various expenditures. And we'll go through a couple of slides that highlight the objectives of the audit, but the opinion on this report is in significant respects as opposed to presented fairly is the language on the other reports. So when we're performing the performance audit, sorry, that was a duplication of words, our main objective, again, is looking at the expenditure. So when you go to vote with your issue a general obligation bond, you're given a list to the voters to approve, and you can only spend and build according to that voter approved list. So we are looking at that list, and we are looking at the expenditures associated with that. And in our testing, we do test 59.7% this year. So that's a total of 58 non-salary transactions, which amounted to 19.4 million. The total expenditures in this fund was 32.5 million. Another key aspect of the performance report is to look at the salaries that are charged to this fund, or these 2 funds, because you actually have Measure E and Measure LB. So we do look at the salaries that are charged to this fund. They can't be administrative salaries, so we have verified that, and they are individuals and employees who directly work on those projects, those construction projects. And that's it.
Sure.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Trustee Otto?
So I would like to make a motion to, that the Board of Trustees receive, which is the appropriate action by the board, the following 2018-19 audit reports as submitted. First, the district financial audit covering the Long Beach Community College District, the LBCC Auxiliary, Inc., and the associated student body. Second, the bond financial audit covering the financial audit of the district's general obligation bond funds, established by Measure E in 2008 and Measure LB in 2016 as required by Proposition 39. And third, the bond performance audit covering the district's compliance with the performance requirements for the district's general obligation bond fund established by Measure E and Measure LB as required by Proposition 39 as well.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, there's a motion and a second to accept the three-part audit report.
Receive it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you. And now we will go back to item 5.2, which is the Personnel Commission Annual Report. And I see one of our Personnel Commissioners here. Come on up.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Carolyn Krichenchuk. I'm the Executive Director for Classified Human Resources. On behalf of the Personnel Commission, I will be presenting to you the 2018-19 Personnel Commission Annual Report. Thank you, Jackie. The Commission would like to thank the Board for their time this evening and acknowledge their staff for their work on this report. Commissioner Gaylord, Chair of the Personnel Commission, is also present this evening. Thank you for acknowledging his presence. As required by the Education Code, the Personnel Director is responsible to the Commission for carrying out all procedures in the administration of classified personnel. Also, as a Secretary to the Personnel Commission, the Personnel Director shall prepare an annual report which shall be sent by the Commission to the Governing Board. For this presentation, we provided printed copies to the trustees as well as the public in attendance. The electronic version is attached to this agenda item and also available online. So this report includes information on the merit system at LBCC and the Personnel Commission structure from pages 2 to 4. LBCC has been a merit district for over 41 years. This is something we have been acknowledged and recognized for at the last PCASC annual conference. Working through the Executive Director, the Personnel Commission has a threefold responsibility: to cooperate with the Governing Board and administrators in the quest for competent employees and best practices in personnel administration. The second part is to represent the interests of the general public by providing a personnel system dedicated to hiring and retaining highly qualified workers. And the third part is to see that classified employees receive fair and equitable treatment. So on page 4, you will see the Personnel Commission structure. The Executive Director is a dual-hatted position, supporting both the Personnel Commission and the district in covering the full spectrum of classified human resource function, such as recruitment, selections, eligibility list certification, classification, compensation, hearings, rules, performance evaluations, discipline, employee-employer relation, leaves, contract administrations, and so forth. On page 5, you have our annual report for 2018-19, which the board approved on May 22nd, 2018. So the budget includes the staff's salary and benefits who support the classified human resources functions as shared this evening. So recruitment, selection, personnel administration, leaves, etc. And the operational budget necessary to carry out these functions. On behalf of the Personnel Commission, I would like to reaffirm the Commission's continued commitment and efforts in cost savings. The Commission is cognizant of the budget challenges and will continue to be fiscally responsible. On page 6, highlighted are the professional development activities and events, such as the new employee orientation. We have revamped the orientation to increase employee engagement, build professional relationships between colleagues, and retention. The annual classified luncheon where classified staff were honored for their contributions and engaged in professional development activities. And the Classified Professional Development Day, which theme was to build on professional journey and be LBCC. So leaders, brave, confident, and creative. It was a huge success. Next, on pages 7 and 8, we highlighted the recruitment activities as well as the career development event. So the Human Resources Department hosted the career development event for local community members and LBCC alumni in April 2019. This inaugural event focused on explaining LBCC's classified recruitment process as well as demystifying the merit system. Managers from various departments were able to answer questions and give hiring tips. This event was advertised both internally and externally through several diverse community groups such as NAACP, United Cambodian Community, the Long Beach LGBTQ+ Center, EDD Office, Centro Cha, Filipino Migrant Center, and the Women's Shelter of Long Beach. Next, pages 9 and 10 provide information on recruitment statistics and employee demographics. As you recall, a couple of months back in September 2019, Kristen Olson and I co-presented the Faculty and Staff Diversity Report. In essence, this annual report contains the same statistics on classified recruitments and employee demographics provided in September. In a nutshell, our recruitment and selection efforts and strategies brought positive results in our diversity numbers. The Faculty and Staff Diversity Report for this fiscal year will be brought to you sometime next fall. Finally, pages 11 through 14 highlight some of our amazing classified employees, such as our outstanding colleagues, the LBCC Classified Employee of the Year, and employees who have been at LBCC between 5 and 35 years. On behalf of the Personnel Commission, thank you very much for your time and the opportunity to present this annual report this evening.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments?
I'd like to make a comment. I want to congratulate you for the idea of the classified day, the recruitment day, Discover LBCC. That's very innovative. I think it's a great idea and probably is due to the fact that we did have an increase in different ethnic groups applying for jobs at the college. So congratulations on that, Caroline. And congratulations on doing a great job.
And I would like to credit our VP. It's under his leadership that we created this event. So thank you, Jean. And thank you, Dr. Baxter.
That was very well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, we will move on and we will get back to our agenda at the 3.1 section where we left off. And I will defer that to Dr. Romali.
Thank you. Tonight you have your board request to the superintendent president with status updates as to where we are on all of the requests that you've made. So please feel free to either ask questions or add new items. We do have a few items that are of particular interest, such as the Labor Center in North Long Beach, separately agendized to allow for a little more lengthy discussion. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to entertain them. Otherwise, we can file it as received.
Okay, Trustee Baxter.
Yes, President Romali, I have a request. I would like the minutes of the meetings on September 17th and October 23 to be agendized for the January meeting. So I believe I need to make a motion to agendize the minutes from the September 17th meeting and October 23rd meeting. I want to make sure I got the right, September 17th and October 23rd, those minutes agendized.
Okay, thank you. You actually don't need to agendize. Any board member can add an item to the agenda as your wish.
So I just want to clarify, Trustee Baxter, I'm on board docs right now and I'm looking at the minutes from the September 17th meeting. You want to put them back for approval, or what do you want to do? Because we have access to the minutes on board docs.
Yes, and I happen to print out the page too. It's the discussion action of hiring the board council.
Okay, so you would just like the same document that you have in your hand to put on the agenda for discussion?
Yes, but both the September 17th and the October 23rd minutes.
Okay, board chair, secretary?
I think I understand. I want to make sure that we understand, that Jackie and I understand. You would like to receive the board minutes from September 17th and October 23rd. You want an agenda item for the discussion of those, as well as the item where there was a discussion of hiring board counsel? Did we
That's right.
we
And then,
reflected that properly?
and then go on to the affirmation of our council's contract.
Affirmation
On
contract.
October 23rd.
Of 23rd.
I
Okay.
might be using the wrong word.
Actually, can I recommend something? It's called an excerpt. We could provide the excerpts in the agenda item for discussion of that item.
Whatever
It wouldn't be the
you
full
suggest.
minutes, it would be that.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, we got
Because
that.
the minutes cannot be amendment. This is
Yes.
just for use of information.
No, and I didn't want the minutes amended.
Okay.
Can I?
Sure, trustee Zia?
Thank you, Trustee Malauulu. I'd like to also agendize an item where we publicly discuss the participation of board counsel in closed session on unrelated matters to his scope of work and contract. That is something that I'd like agendized in January so we can have a discussion and take a public vote.
I don't think we need a discussion or a vote, right? She could just make the request?
Yeah, any trustee can place an item on the agenda. Anyone can request that. Yeah.
I said I'd like to have it voted on in January. That's the agenda item.
Okay, you'd like to have, just for clarification, same question I asked Dr. Baxter. What is it that you would like agendized and voted on?
The matter that I've brought up is the participation of board counsel in closed session on unrelated matters as he has been participating, and have the board vote on whether or not it's appropriate for his participation on matters that is unrelated to his contract.
Okay. Any other discussion on these two items being placed on the agenda? Okay.
Just as a point of order, any trustee can put an item on the agenda, and I don't know that it needs to be brought up in a board meeting. Just do it. It's nothing to be voted on. Let's just, if you want something on the agenda, we'll put it on the agenda.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm asking.
That's what we're doing, Mr. Otto.
Yeah, but in meetings that usually go on about 6 hours, doing lots of things that you can do without having to talk about it is, in my opinion, a waste of time.
Okay. I thought it had to be presented, so however you want to do it, it's fine with me.
Okay, thank you, trustees Baxter and Zia. Both of those items will be on the agenda in January. Any other board request to Dr. Romali or comments on the existing attachment? Okay, we'll move on to item 4.1, contract award. This is an action item. We will need a motion and a second,
Move
please.
approval.
Second.
We've got a motion by trustee Untuck, second by trustee Otto. Any discussion?
Yes. I would like to move this approval to also to the January meeting. And the reason is, I would like anonymously a category of the allegations and a category of people who have made the allegations. In other words, bribery, theft, sexual harassment. I don't want the particulars, but I just want a listing of the kinds of allegations that have been made and the kinds of people who have made them before we approve this contract.
Okay, I have a question for our council. I'm concerned that we might be entering an area that is not to be discussed in open session. Could you clarify?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. The item before you is a contract award. If a board member, as you previously discussed, wants to put something on the agenda to have a further discussion, that can happen, but it shouldn't be connected to this particular agenda item. That's a discrete item that calls for a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Any other discussion related to what Board Trustee Baxter talked about should be a separate discussion, perhaps on an agenda item, perhaps in closed session. As I discussed with the board earlier this evening, there are certain conversations that you want to have that are confidential in nature and that are attorney-client privileged, and I would encourage you to have those conversations in closed session.
Thank you. Trustee
Okay.
Zia? Oh, I'm sorry,
Oh,
Trustee
but
Baxter, were you
Can it
done?
be placed on the closed session agenda?
No. Contract awards cannot be placed on closed session.
Again, as mentioned, a board member can put anything you want that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of this board on the agenda. With respect to placing the discussion of a contract award on an agenda, you can have a discrete discussion about contract awards in closed session, but ultimately they need to be acted on in open session.
Yeah. And then I guess what I want to do is move this contract to the January board meeting. Move approval to the January board meeting.
Can I just say something here? I think Trustee Baxter has a point. We haven't gotten even the list of allegations before we can approve a contract that is, for whatever reason, is being brought forth. Again, I've made this point earlier. This is based on bad legal advice last time and is coming back to us. So maybe we should pause, first get the list of allegations and know what we are actually doing, the fact finding, and nothing against this individual. But I agree with Trustee Baxter, and I second the motion to table it until we receive the allegations that is being suggested here. We haven't seen those or haven't gotten any evidence of such allegations being made. And it's a waste of taxpayer money if we don't know what we're investigating and spending $20,000 doing that.
Trustee Otto?
Point of order, and that is that misstates what the motion was represented to be, which was just to, not to table it, but to move it to the meeting in January. And without reasons stated, is that what the motion is? Or is it a different motion?
Yeah, well, no, the reason I wanted to table the moved, and I'm sorry, Trustee Otto, that, and I'm not being facetious, I don't know Robert's rules as well as you do, but I feel in good conscience I can't vote on something if I don't even know what the allegations are.
Well,
But I didn't want to go into detail.
So you're right, Trustee Otto. It's my mistake. I said table. It is moved, continue it to January, and hopefully by then we've gotten the list of allegations, and then we can take a vote. And I think that's what we're saying here, and that's what the motion and the second is for.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second, and we've had discussion.
Point of order. Yeah, there's
Trustee Ntuk?
There's two motions and have to be addressed separately and two separate votes.
Okay, so the first motion, Trustee Baxter wanted to move this item to the January agenda. Actually, let me back up. So the first motion was Trustee Ntuk wanted to approve this item, move to approve. Trustee Otto seconded, and then there was an additional motion, which I believe was out of order because we hadn't called for a vote on the first motion. So that was more of a discussion, which I didn't really have a problem with that. So at this time, I'd like to call for the vote on the original motion to approve item 4.1 on the agenda. So, Madam Secretary, could you please call roll on this item?
Point of order.
Well, her motion was out of order, so.
Just one clarification, because this is the second time this item's coming back before us. I just wanted to verify that we do have the correct document with the correct language with Mr. Yoon, because I know we tried to do this before and we had the wrong document. I just want to verify that we're actually voting on the.
Thank you, Trustee Ntuk. I've had an Thank you, Trustee Intook. I've had an opportunity to review the agenda and the agenda item, and what you have before you is the correct document.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you. So at this time, we'll go ahead and call for a vote. Roll call vote, please, Madam Secretary.
Virginia Baxter.
Nay.
Vivian
Point of order.
Malauulu.
I apologize, student trustee. Yeah, I think I've passed you a couple of times today. Huh? I am very, very sorry. I'm going to need you to holler and raise your hand and something, because I'm sorry. I just get into this habit. So I apologize. Student trustee Donnell Jones, if you could please cast your advisory vote.
Nay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Madam Secretary?
Virginia Baxter.
Nay.
Vivian Malauulu.
Yay.
Uduak Joe Intuk.
Yes.
Doug Otto.
Aye.
Sunny Zia.
Nay. Are we voting on the second motion? Because I believe that would have been in order as a substitute motion.
It's too late. The motion carried. The 4.1 contract award has been approved by the board to a vote of 3-2. So now we're going to move on to item 4.2.
Excuse me, Madam Chair. I'd like to make a point here that I wasn't able to say in the discussion, because I was under the impression we're going to vote on the second motion. So if you'll allow me to.
Sure. Sure.
I think it's important for us to be fiscally prudent. This contract that it was just voted on, I don't think it's a good use of taxpayer money. That $20,000 can go to students and for student success. Instead, we're using it on something that we have no evidence, no list of allegations. It's nebulous at best, and I think within our fiduciary duty, we need to be very mindful and make sure we exercise fiscal prudence, and I don't think this is an example of that, and that's why I strongly disagree with this contract. And then lastly, we were told that this contract is independent from the board council, but the board council negotiated on behalf of this consultant, and he told us that, and I don't think that's appropriate.
Thank you, Trustee Zia. Okay, we're going to move on to item 4.2, which is the board agenda schedule. This is an information item only. Do we have any additions, changes, corrections to the schedule? Anyone? All right, we'll move on to item 4.3. This is an update that I requested on the Roush doctoral program to see how many of our students enrolled, completed, have successfully argued their dissertation. And would this be Vice President Scott?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Board President. We've had a program here at LBCC which has allowed employees to enter into a doctoral program. And many of the students in this program are just finishing now. The four-year period is complete. And so there was a request by the board to give a status as to how many had finished, how many were still working on their dissertation, and that's what you have in your executive summary. 19 employees were enrolled in the program. 4 who began the program subsequently left the district and are no longer participating. And the district has paid approximately $77,000 for this program, and 15 participants are still enrolled, and most of them, I think it's a little over 50%, have finished at this point. And you've been provided with a list of those who have finished, and it seems like every day someone's finishing. Becky Black finished, I think, yesterday. Dr. Black, she's the most current one. And some people will finish either in spring or in summer, and that's the status. I'd be happy to tell you what some of them have done their projects on, but I don't know how much information you're looking for.
I think that's sufficient. I wanted to know how many of our students, how many of our staff had enrolled as students, how many had completed, where they were in the process. So perhaps maybe at the end of the year, Dr. Scott, you could give us one more update to see if we have anyone that has completed by then.
Sure, absolutely. And we could also perhaps give you a list of what their dissertations were on, so you can get a sense of the projects that they worked
Yeah,
on.
I'd like a list of the dissertation titles.
Oh, that'd
Sure,
be great.
no problem. Absolutely.
That's a good idea. Thank you.
You're
Anyone
welcome.
else? Okay, item 4.4, the ad hoc committee to explore the establishment of a labor center. Trustee Otto and I have talked about this several times, probably too much, right, Trustee Otto? And we are pending a meeting. Well, I'll let you report, Trustee Otto, and then if I need to follow up.
Well, this came up at the last meeting, and it was clearly heard that it was important to involve other stakeholders in the Long Beach Community College District in this. And Trustee Malauulu and I have talked about this. We've talked about possible labor partners. We've talked about getting a meeting with the LA Fed about this. But we're really wanting, and we've reached out to the faculty, I know, and we're trying to get a process in place for the inclusion of all the stakeholders that want to participate in this process, and hopefully that will be accomplished before the January 22nd meeting, and we're working hard to do that.
That's correct. So at this point, we are waiting for staff to follow through on requests that I emailed to them. I don't know if it was the night of the last meeting or within 24 hours of the last meeting, I shot out multiple email requests asking for meetings, dates, times. I have heard back from several of the constituent groups that I requested meetings from, and I do have some meetings pending. Also, we'd like staff to schedule, whatever the process is. I have been doing a lot of research on this, and it turns out that my initial idea of having the board approve the labor center, and then once the board says, yes, let's do it, have everybody just be delegated and assigned task was not really too far off the mark. But I will yield that we certainly will welcome any input in this initial process as well. Again, we do have meetings pending with the LA County Federation of Labor. They're very excited. They were very disappointed to hear about some of the delays. They had not experienced that with other labor centers that they'd been involved in with other institutions. Unfortunately, our college and our board is, I really do hate to say this, but we are acquiring quite a bit of a reputation in the community, and I don't like that, but it is what it is. So we just have to do what we have to do, and we have to get through it. Hopefully, we can all work together to do something good for this college, the students, and the community that we serve. And the one item that I had on the attachment is when I had originally met with Vice President Drinkwine, is to clarify that bond measure funds could or couldn't be used to renovate space and what the limitations were. And I did send an email to that effect last week when this document was made public, prior to it being made public. And Vice President Drinkwine was bon voyaging, celebrating her 1-year anniversary, so we certainly will not hold that against her. But she has responded since, and I have asked her to clarify that because that was the only issue that I wanted clarification on. So,
thank you, President Malauulu. The question on whether bond funds could be used to support any kind of facility renovations depends on the extent of those renovations. If we were talking about simple maintenance issues, say a coat of paint, carpet cleaning, that type of thing, those would not be appropriate for bond expenditures, but those are appropriate to use the existing budget that's used for those types of maintenance issues. If we are talking about a modernization and improvement to the facility, after that goes through the Facilities Advisory Committee and is approved, it would be appropriate to use bond funds in that case.
sounds good, perfect. And that is consistent with the conversation that I had with you prior to our walk through the Pacific Coast campus. You like how I said that?
Yeah, very good.
And when I saw that document, I do feel that it is incomplete in that one sentence. It's the second to the last paragraph, the last sentence. And I'd ask Aaron to revise that, but in the absence of Vice President Drinkwine, that is omitted, but we will get that into the written report. And then hopefully, like Trustee Otto said, prior to the January 22nd meeting, we would have had a meeting with some or all members who are interested in having a say in the Labor Center so that we could come back and report. I would like to have a schedule, Dr. Romali, a calendar of activities and events. And I know that, we're obviously going on a break and we'll come back second semester. So I understand that there's some logistics involved in that.
Thank you. A couple of things to add. Staff have been working on putting together a couple of tentative dates for a town hall. We've heard back from Senate as well as classified Senate as to some tentative possibilities that we can then bring to the board as available options. We've also worked on a list of potential partners that we can work with that we want to work with the group with before we present it to you. It's really a wonderful list, but what has been expressed to me and what I heard, I hope I heard it correctly at the last meeting because I want to make sure I do what is the request of the board and is the request of the faculty. What I heard, did I hear you say you wanted faculty and staff to be on the ad hoc committee and have an opportunity to provide input that way? Or what? I want to make sure that I do what the board needs me to do and that it reflects the input. So what I need is a bit more clear direction from you and from the board tonight as to what the wishes are and how you want that input to be expressed.
Sure.
It's the request of the faculty through the Senate that they be a part of the committee, and I'll defer to Cece for the classified side of the house, but I think the impression was back in October when we were forming these ad hoc committees, and I went back and looked because I thought, I'm sure I asked at that time in October, are people going to be appointed to this committee? Are people going to be part of this discussion? And I was told that they were. So I was waiting to then hear at what point are you ready for the names of the folks that have volunteered to serve on both of those ad hoc committees. And that did not come to me. So I was waiting to hear for that. But the expectation for the ad hoc committee for the shared governance piece is that they be involved in those discussions. Now, hearing that you're interested in meeting with them in January, faculty are not on campus in January typically, which means now we're looking at February, having them back. I did send something to Aaron. Dr. Morley, I think you got a copy, but I sent to Aaron with regard to potential opportunities for town halls. But again, I just want to come back to so that I can take it back to the Senate and to faculty in general, what is the process? So are we going to be, we meaning faculty and classified staff and management, I assume, students for sure, are we going to be part of this ad hoc committee? And is the ad hoc committees, what is the kind of the charge and the membership of the ad hoc committee? And what's the deliverables from that? Is it still in a discussion? Is it decided? Is it kind of what are we doing? Because those are the questions I got asked in Senate, kind of very point blank. And so I want to be sensitive to that. I want to be sensitive with the faculty. They want to be a part of it, and they want to feel that they have a voice in it, in a shared governance situation. So, and I thought that's what we had talked about at the October meeting. I went back and looked because I wanted to make sure. And we did talk about that, and at one point, Doug, it was not about this particular part, but about the PCC part was about, well, let's do a survey. So, I mean, I don't think we need a survey for the Labor Center necessarily, but there was talk of specific involvement. And then I don't know, I think that kind of got evaporated somehow. So I want to come back to, on behalf of the Senate, I'm asking, what is the process? What is the timeline? What are the deliverables? What's the expectation? What's the charge of this committee? And what are we hoping is the result of that? So, but I'll defer to Cece when it comes to the classified.
Sure, Trustee Otto.
Yeah, just to be clear, at least with regard to what my intentions are, is that it's loud and clear to me that both the faculty and the classifieds need to be a part of this process, and their voices need to be heard. And we don't have to go fast. We need to get it done, but we don't have to go fast, and that means that both stakeholders need to be involved and consulted with. And by the way, if the students,
Absolutely.
you know, if we get that message too. Now, in my old professorial way, I'll say, be careful what you wish for, because what we really did when we established this committee was all that we can do, which is to say, we were going to have a board ad hoc committee. We're going to look into this. And I don't want to create a situation where every friggin' ad hoc committee that we come up with has to go through this Machiavellian process of doing all this. But, you know, the train ain't going to leave the station without you.
I agree with you 100%. I can appreciate that, because I think that there are things certainly that are board purview. There are other things that fall under the shared governance and the 10+1, and so I want to be very mindful of that, because that is the Senate role. And so again, you know, we all have our due diligence and we all have things that we want to do, and we want to just be supportive and be a part of that discussion. So again, I'm coming from the shared governance point, I'm coming from the Senate. Again, there's purviews of the board and then there's purviews of the Senate, and so I want to be mindful of both. And absolutely, I would be remiss if I ever left out the students. I was ASB for 25 years, so they are near and dear to my heart. Student government is near and dear to my heart. And so absolutely we would want representation. I don't think you need 50 million people. We probably have just less than that faculty, so it wouldn't be that big, but there are folks who have offered to participate. And certainly, again, if we knew what the process was, if we knew how much time was going to be involved, if you knew how often you wanted to meet or what your deliverables are, that would certainly help inform participation. So it's about working collaboratively, and that was the intent of the Senate.
Well, I appreciate all of that, and I'd just like to add a couple of things to that. I think I will, again, assume 100% responsibility for this. I relied a little bit too much on Dr. O'Malley and the executive team to see this vision through, and that's my fault. I remember speaking to Dr. O'Malley before I became board chair, and I remember sharing with her a list of the items that I wanted to accomplish in my tenure, and the Labor Center was one of them. And she was very excited and said, we'll get right on it, we'll do this and that. And then again, I met with Dr. O'Malley and all of the vice presidents. They all came out to my office in San Pedro, and we had a great brunch meeting. And again, I laid out my vision for my tenure as president. And not once in those two meetings was shared governance brought up. Not once was it, hey, you also need to do this with the faculty, because of course I would have said, let's do it. Because as a board member, as a trustee, from what I understand, I'm not supposed to micromanage. I'm not supposed to get in the weeds. I'm supposed to share a vision, a goal, an objective, and then share it with Dr. O'Malley and have Dr. O'Malley delegate to the staff what needs to happen. So I've asked, within 24 hours of the last meeting, I shot out a bunch of emails, and I asked what ad hoc committees had which faculty members, which centers and offices on campus included the shared governance, because I want to do the same thing. I'd like to do the exact same thing when different offices and different centers were established on campus. However many faculty members, however many students, however many classified members were on those ad hoc committees that came to the board, that came for approval, I want to do the exact same thing. So I'm still waiting on that list. I'm still waiting for an example to follow. Like Trustee Otto said, we're not in a hurry. I'm certainly not in a hurry. I wanted to have some event in January because the board was meeting in January at the Pacific Coast campus. So I thought it'd be great. We're already there. We can invite people to the campus, show them what we're doing. But I think it's actually going to be better this way. I actually think this is going to be way better this way. So we can take our time. We can have as many meetings as you want. I actually am one of those people who loves meetings. I can make myself available.
I
So
think that's a disease.
I know. I'm always trying to have a meeting. Let's have a meeting. But however many people you want. But I also don't want to do anything completely different than what's already been done. So I apologize that I never, as a former faculty member, I never raised my hand and said, hey, what about shared governance?
Thank you.
I never brought that up either. So I take responsibility because I didn't do it and nobody else did it either until we had that meeting. So Jerry, and I think I said it at the last meeting, thank you for, the elephant in the room observation, because, we were so excited and ready to move forward and we had so many people on board that now, when I have called everybody back that I'd spoken to before and I explained to them what happened and I told them it's better this way and it makes more sense and we're good. So it is better this way and it does make more sense.
I thank
May I
you
speak?
for that.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you so much for placing the blame squarely on my shoulders. And please forgive me for assuming that because you are a faculty member that you knew that faculty participate in all decisions here. So unless there's a lack of clarity, faculty participate in all decisions made at the Long Beach City College. There's not a single decision that gets made at Long Beach City College other than confidential matters where they are not involved. I apologize for that lack of clarification. Let there not be any lack of clarification ever again.
Dr. O'Malley, if I may respond?
Yes, thank you.
And I'm so glad that this is on video. I accepted full responsibility.
Thank you.
It wasn't that I put any blame squarely on your shoulders.
Thank you.
Did anybody hear me say that?
Yes, I did, and we all did. And you prefaced that by saying,
No one brought it up. That's what I said. It wasn't brought up.
Let me tell you what you
It wasn't brought up
said.
because they're involved in every decision that takes place on the campus.
And
I
as
apologize.
you mentioned, Trustee Malauulu, and just to be fair, you said, when you participated, you expected, you over-relied on Superintendent President Romali and expected them to tell you. And I don't think that's fair. This is a positive thing that you're doing. Let's focus on the positive. You have gone through the Excellence in Trustee program, and you have multiple certifications, I believe, and your shared governance is not foreign to you. And I thank you for taking responsibility, because I think it takes a big person to do that, and I appreciate that. But I think it's a little bit it's unfair to preface it by putting the blame on staff. Let's just focus on the positive and move forward on doing something really great. Having said that, I have a question on the bond point that was brought up. So we could use the bond money? Did I hear correctly?
The bond allows for improvements to our buildings to serve different purposes. So yes, if the extent of the improvement is an improvement and not just maintenance, and then it goes through our Facilities Advisory Committee, which is a shared governance committee that approves all those we call them small improvement projects, then it is a valid use of bonds.
Okay, and will you have a rough order of magnitude of how much that would cost before we get to actually proceed with this item? Will we know? Because it would be nice to know what is considered improvement, what is not, and what thresholds we're looking at here for the benefit of the public and the taxpayers.
That is our intent. We walked PCC to look at potential spaces. So as part of this process, if we identify which of those spaces works best, we could give an estimate of that cost, as well as a determination of whether the improvements needed would be maintenance or would reach the level where it could be an improvement that could be funded by the bond. But it would require identification of the specific space so that we can make that determination.
And if I may ask to have the ad hoc committee bring that back to the board for us to look at that, if indeed we're going to do improvements, and see what the fiscal impact will be.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Jerry?
There has been a long tradition at Long Beach City College for involvement across the campus. And I have to say that as Senate President, that has never been more evident to me. than in my interactions and workings with Dr. Scott, with Dr. Romali, with Ms. Marlene Drinkwine. All the vice presidents I've worked with have been very open and very welcoming into their offices for that. So that's not to say, that's not a negative to the board, that's to say faculty are used to being involved, and they're used to being part of the process and not being a road bump to it, but to enhance what people want to have happen at the college. And so again, it's a process issue for me. It's not the thing, whether we're talking about the Labor Center, whether we're talking about the changing of the campus name. It's not about the thing for faculty, it's about the process. Sure. And it's about inclusiveness, and it's about being part of those discussions and being mindful that some things are not our purview. I will give you that. There are things that are board purview, certainly, but there are things that are faculty purview, classified, and just in a sense of shared governance, classified. And so I guess I want everybody to be really mindful of that. We want to be part of the discussion, and this is a big thing that could come to the college, and this is a thing that could be a lot of wonderful things for students and for faculty and for staff. And so to have that happen outside of our discussion or outside of our purview just felt like kind of why we would like to help. And so I want to be mindful of that, but we have had, there's always been a real sense of inclusion at Long Beach City College, especially with the students, making sure that their voices are heard. And just from my experience as a senator, from the moment, from the moment that Dr. Romali walked on campus and introduced herself as the superintendent president, I'll never forget, ever, and I've been at the college for 39 years, sitting in this room with her saying, what do you need? How can I help? And how can I stay out of your way so that you can get it done? And I thought, really? And that's come true every single day that I've worked with her. So I've not had that experience. The experience of the faculty has been just that from her. What do you need? How can I help? You know, as she likes to say, she's the roadie to the show. It's the best show I've been in since probably Beverly O'Neill was president of this institution, and I was here at that time. So we've come a long way, I get that, but right now it's a great show, and if she's the roadie, then no wonder the show is phenomenal. So I do have to say that, but you know, again, we want to be a part of it. January's going to be iffy because now faculty are off campus. So they won't be on campus for meetings, but I am happy to help you. I am happy to work with you to set up a process that we're all used to following and being inclusive of that and moving forward and doing wonderful things for Long Beach City College and more importantly for the students that we serve. So you can count on my support for the process. I'm all about process.
Well, I appreciate that, and I don't want to belabor the point, no pun intended. I cannot repeat myself again, but I invite all of you to just rewind and watch the video over and over. It was never an intention to not include the faculty. And had someone said in June or August, let's get the faculty, let's set up a meeting, it would have happened. But it was certainly not something that was on my radar until you brought it up at the last meeting. So the faculty is very lucky to have you. And I look forward to having meetings, and I look forward to definitely the shared governance process, which I am very familiar with. So is there any additional discussion, Dr. Baxter?
Yes, and I don't want to take away from Jerry, but I was the one who brought up shared governance. And I have to tell you, when the ad hoc committee was put on the agenda, I voted to put it on the agenda to move forward. Never in my mind did I think in less than 30 days the whole concept would be together, because this college doesn't work that way. And so I'm so thrilled that we're going to have shared governance and be involved in this. My only proviso is I am concerned about expense. And who's gonna man it? You're gonna put up displays. And so my only objection would be from a fiscal point of view. not anything else. If you want the history of labor in this area, I'll be happy to start with Mother Jones, and we can go forward after that. You know, just a compilation of that will be wonderful. A dear person who I'm sure you knew, Stanley Weir, was one of the biggest supporters of the longshoremen in the 1940s and 50s, and he's no longer with us, and his wife, Dr. Mary Weir, who taught here for 40 years, she's no longer with us, but they were very strong supporters of the labor union movement in the South Bay area. That's my history lesson.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay, yes, Trustee Otto?
Yeah, this is a point of disorder. This is what we got left tonight, so can we move on?
Yeah. So we've already heard item 5.1, item 5.2. We're going to move on to item 6.1 for the consent agenda. Any item to be pulled?
Yes.
Trustee Antec?
I'd like to pull 6.9, the foundation contract.
I'm sorry, Mr. Under, would you
I would like to pull 6.9.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, do we need a motion for that?
No.
All right, we're pulling item 6.9, so I need a motion to approve
So moved.
6.3 to 6.14 minus 6.9. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Trustee Zia made the motion. Trustee Baxter seconded. All those in favor? Any discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? All right, we're going to move on to item 6.9. Motion carries. Moving on to item 6.9. This is the foundation contract. Trustee Antec?
Yeah, I know there was a lot of consternation about this, and it was delayed previously by Trustee Baxter for unspecified reasons, and I'd like to hear tonight what those reasons were and if they were resolved.
Yes, the foundation, after I left my position there, passed a policy of charging fees. And as a scholarship donor, I was not notified. I don't think Jerry, you're a scholarship donor. I'm sure you weren't notified. I don't think Trustee Otto was notified. And Sonny, and Vivian, for that matter. Anyway, they have changed that policy, and there will not be fees on scholarships, donations.
Trustee Antec, does that satisfy your question?
No, I know. I met with the executive director and shared some of my concerns I have with the foundation, and I'm not supportive of the contract tonight. You know, we've talked at length about the lack of diversity in the staff and the board. Virtually no people of color, I don't think, work there or on the board, maybe one or two. They've been tremendously disrespectful to Dr. Ramali in meetings and had a number of conflicts. We do not have an actual vote on the board. We do not have access to closed session. They have not shared information that we've requested. I've personally got calls from donors complaining that forms were not filled out and that we'd lose $75,000 in STEM money from Southern California Edison unless we immediately turned in documents that were not submitted. And lastly, we sent a board letter over about this last hiring process, that the executive director needs to be a staff member of the district and go through the hiring policies of the district, which did not occur. I did get a number of complaints from applicants that felt that they were screened out, mainly from highly educated people of color with doctorates and master's degrees with experience that continues to go unaddressed. And one of the things we were trying to recruit candidates who had community college fundraising experience, which we did not get in the executive director role, because our benefits and PERS, if you're a member of the staff member of the college, like we provide everyone, you have benefits and a good retirement. And they are not able to offer that, and so it diminishes the pool of candidates. And I see this as, I think it's a $275,000 giveaway to the foundation that I don't think any of us should support if we can't get basic responses and some basic changes done over there. And it's not on us to do, it's their job to do. It's not any board member or Dr. Romali to go and make the changes that need to happen, but we're at a leverage point here. We can start our own foundation auxiliary where we have control. Most other districts have it. I don't see the point of investing another $500,000 in basically an operation that doesn't align with our missions, our goals, our student body, or our community. So I'd like a motion to deny the contract tonight.
Okay, we've got a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Okay, so the motion dies for a lack of second. So, Madam Secretary, do we need a motion to approve it now? Yes. Okay, so now we need a motion to approve item 6.9.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second to approve the contract, item 6.9 of the foundation. Any discussion on that?
Yes, I'd like to respond
Sure.
to Vice President Ntuk. I agree with you on a lot of what you're saying. But I do think that the new executive director is trying to change things because an issue of a person of color was denied renewal. And I complained because to me it was.
What do you mean? What do you mean renewal?
Pardon me?
What do you mean by renewal?
Yeah.
What does renewal mean?
Well, you have terms of office, and so you have
on the board.
you have a 3-year term.
Okay.
And before the new person got here, I complained because I felt it was a very bad decision, and so I do agree with you, Mr. Ntuk, but I also think that they are trying to remedy. They are opening up their board to more people of color. And I think the Hall of Fame selection is a good example of trying to broaden. If you look at the photos of the people in the Hall of Fame in the beginning, they're not very diverse. I think they're trying. I really think they're trying, and that's why I will vote in favor of this contract. You were so gracious as to defer to me to be the rep, and I am my little way trying to get changes made. They're probably dying over there. But I do, and I am listening to you, and I think to have the executive director be a college employee is not a bad idea. I was very, very lucky because I was a college employee hired by the foundation and whose salary was paid. They made the decision when I left to change that, and I had nothing to do with that. But you have made very, very true and honest observations.
Thank you. Any additional discussion?
I'd like to say something. This is a great opportunity for a discussion. When this contract originally came forward in its original form by the previous executive director, I really had a hard time voting for it. To pay district funds for a foundation that was supposed to raise money for us, it was a hard vote for me, and it continued to be a hard vote. And I share the sentiment. And, I was assured that this is going to be the last time in order to support our alumni, and hopefully with the enhancements that will be made. I also share your concerns. I think they have Dr. Z, they have others, but we should strive for more diversity and people, not just demographic diversity, but fresh faces. But being that it's a separate entity, it's hard to dictate that. I will vote for this only for the last time, and I do not want to see another amendment come back, because I think it's not fiscally prudent for us to continue with a contract amendment of this size in perpetuity.
Any additional discussion, Trustee Antec?
Yeah, I did second the motion within the hope that maybe ask for a friendly amendment to push this back to next month. I did think Mr. Kaminsky was going to be here tonight, as he was the last time it was on the agenda, but which would be an opportune time for him to articulate what some of us have heard. And if there's not a pressing need that a check needs to be deposited before the end of the year, if we could push this back to January and have him be able to come and articulate what changes are coming with this contract extension.
I have no problem with that.
I think that would be
I think there was a pressing, because he shared that because of loss of funding on other areas, that they need the funding now. That's at least what I was told. But I'm not in a hurry either. But I think we've already delayed it once. I think it would be prudent for us to vote on the item tonight instead of delaying it.
In our conversation with Dr. O'Malley and Ms. Drinkwine on Monday, they had 1.5 years of funding that they were fiscally sound.
That's
was
what I was
not,
going to say is I thought we received a representation from Liz McCann that they'd raised $4 million, so I'm interested in why there's a cash flow problem at this time.
And I don't think they've raised the cash flow question or issue, have they?
I think it was the loss of the C2C funding and other funding. Therefore, this will really help them. That's what I was. That's the understanding I was left with. Yeah. I could be wrong.
Just to let you know, we removed the funding from them. We had run $800,000 a year through there as a flow through for the Goldman Sachs program. We decided not to flow it through there anymore because they were taking a fee for it, and we believed that all of that money should go to the program rather than to the administrative costs if it was not a lot of administrative work done with it, like there is with the scholarships, where there's a lot of administrative work. The Goldman Sachs is merely a pass-through, check in, check out. We didn't feel it was appropriate for them to be taking a fee. So that may be contributing to the cash flow problem, if that's helpful. But Trustee Induk is 100% correct.
If I may, there are two programs that they used to act as fiscal agent for that they no longer do so. One is the C2C program.
Oh, really?
Correct. The C2C program was interesting, and I think Dr. Munoz could probably add a lot more to the understanding of that program. But it truly is a program that was operated on our campus and served our students. And my understanding, it was funneled through the foundation as kind of a maneuver to bring the program into the college campus, but it is one that we operate. I don't know if you wanted to add anything more to that understanding, Dr. Munoz?
Yeah, I also, I'm sorry.
No, it's Dr. Munoz.
So it currently still is housed under the foundation. We are in the process, and so essentially it's a vendor agreement with the Harbor Regional Center, and so we are in the process of transitioning from the foundation to the college as the vendorization contract, and we expect to have that completed sometime in March. But currently, they are still serving as the fiscal agent for C2C and college support program.
And then the second program, as Dr. Ramali mentioned, is the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses. My understanding is, and this has been an incredibly successful program, I have to brag a little bit, we're reaching 1,000 businesses ahead of New York, so yes. My understanding is when Goldman Sachs began this program, their foundation, because it is operated through the Goldman Sachs Foundation, was only familiar with other foundations and was very comfortable in funding this to a foundation and really was learning how to fund it through a public educational agency. But like any other grant-funded program that we operate, and we can receive those grants from federal government, state government, or other foundations, it is not inappropriate for us to accept that money directly so that we can operate that program in its entirety. And by doing that, we remove some delays that there could be in the cash receipts. It makes it a far more streamlined operation. And also we get the benefit of all the funds to serve the program. And so that was a change that Goldman Sachs announced to us last year, that they were now comfortable in funding public education agencies directly, and they made that change with the current year. And so the foundation has lost the revenue that they had been collecting as a percentage of the total revenues to reflect their administrative fees.
President Malauulu, may I respond? Only because I'm very, very familiar with both of these. Let's do Goldman Sachs first because I have to tell you, the fee that was charged was like 0.5%, which always ticked me off because it was a relatively small amount. But at the time, you're absolutely right, Goldman Sachs would only give to another nonprofit. Now, because I haven't been involved in the foundation for 3 years, I don't know about the cash flow problem. We never had a problem. We made those wire transfers. It was no problem at all. And so I can't imagine that the loss of that money would cause cash flow, but I don't know. On C2C, which is a program which supports students with autism, the college was offered that program. And it was before you, it was actually, I think even before Greg Peterson, and the college turned it down. So the head of the Disabled Students Program, Mark Matsui, who's no longer here, came to me and said, would you be willing to fund this program? It is a fabulous program. Each student, and I don't know if I can say that with autism, I don't know what the right words are, but each student has a coach that helps the student interact and learn how to be part of society. They all have to be in a program. I'll tell you a cute story. Nathan came to me. I have a watch which measures my steps. And so he set up my watch and he went, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, and his coach was there. And I said, wait a second, I'm an old lady, Nathan. Now you got to show me how to do it. And so the coach helped him teach me because what he wanted to do was work a help desk. So he was brilliant. But it was learning how to interface with people, and I could see that he would be really good in the helpline. This coach was helping him. He went to all the classes. It was a fabulous program. I am so glad the college is taking it over because this is such a wonderful, innovative program. But yes, we did charge fees for that, and because that was authorized by Harbor Regional. But they're both wonderful programs. And Trustee Otto, I'm sorry. I know, I talked about my watch. You could talk about your weights, your lifting weights right here. Now you got to move to the other arm. And now be quiet.
That was great insight. I just wanted to call for the vote on the motion that's on the floor.
I would, prior to just calling for the vote, I just want to agree with both Trustee Baxter and Trustee Untuck. I agree with Trustee Baxter. I have also met with the Foundation Executive Director, and I understand that there are some changes that are happening. And I also agree with Trustee Untuck. I am okay with deferring this to January just to give Mr. Kaminsky the opportunity to speak like I did at the last meeting. I just think that that's only fair. So I'm a little bit torn. Sorry, I lost track of what motion is on the floor. But I'm okay with deferring this. And also, with the Goldman Sachs and the C2C program, both of those programs, I have constituents who have gone through both programs. And in fact, Dr. Munoz, the first issue that I brought to you was the C2C program, and you were able to identify issues, and you worked really well with both the foundation and the Harbor Occupational Center. So we were able to tighten that up, and I appreciate that. I don't know what the impact was on the foundation with the work that you did. I never followed up, I never asked, but I haven't heard anything bad about it, so I'm assuming that it was a good tightening up. Other than that, Madam Chair, what motion do we have on the floor?
I have 1.5 motions.
We have a friendly amendment to defer it.
To authorize to enter into the contract. And then the second one is, do you want to lay it over to January?
So that would be up to Trustee Baxter if she accepts the amendment to defer it to the January meeting?
Yeah, I think I seconded it, right?
Well, you have to accept the amendment.
You made the motion to enter into the contract. Trustee Ntuk seconded it.
Okay.
And now I need.
Okay, I'm willing to defer.
Accept the amendment.
Yeah, second the amendment.
Accept the amendment.
Accept the amendment.
All right, so now we have a motion on the floor to defer the vote of this contract to January, and I hope that this isn't a time-sensitive issue that has to be decided on prior to the end of the year. So we've got a motion and a second. Any discussion, Trustee Otto, with your paperweight?
Just a quick comment, and that is, yeah, I'm going to vote against the motion to put it over because I don't think everything that happens at this college needs to happen at this board meeting or at any board meeting that we have, and that seems the direction in which we're heading. What I'm going to do, because I think valid points have been raised, is I'm going to call Mr. Kaminsky, who I know I've had meals with and whatnot, and ask him and get this information. And I don't know that we have to make an agenda item so he can come and talk to us. People can actually talk to one another outside this meeting, and it would be in everybody's best interest. So that's all.
Trustee Otto, I respectfully disagree with that because I do think that the public does have a right to know. And while you might have a full Rolodex in your phone where you can call anybody, a lot of people can't just call Paul Kaminsky and say, hey, what's up? What happened? But I do think that we do have that fiduciary responsibility to give him an opportunity to address that and respond publicly. And I do say that very respectfully, in fear that, that stack of paper might come flying across this way. So we've got a motion and a second. Trustee Jones, would you like to add to the discussion?
Just a clarification, what we're about to vote on right now is the motion to postpone to January, correct? Okay.
Yes. Do you have any additional discussion before I ask him for his advisory vote? Student Trustee Jones, your advisory vote?
Aye.
Okay, now I'd like to call for the question. Call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, the motion carries. We will move on to item 7.1. This is an action item, new, modified, and inactivated courses. All of the attachments are on the agenda. If it pleases the board, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Move approval.
Second.
We've got a motion by Trustee Untuck, seconded by Trustee Zia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 7.2, another action item, new and modified programs of study. All attachments are on the agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Trustee Zia, seconded by Trustee Untuck. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Student Trustee Donnell, I'm skipping you. Are you okay?
That's an aye.
You're okay? Okay.
He's voting.
All right. You just like to weigh in on the heavy stuff. I get it.
I'll let you
right?
guys know if I object to
Okay,
anything.
sounds good. Item 7.3, another action item, modifications to general education plans B and C. Attachments are on the agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Trustee Zia, second by Trustee Untuck. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, now we're going to item 8.1. This is Dr. Scott. It's an information item only. I will defer to you. It's faculty hiring priorities. And since it is information, Dr. Scott, if you don't mind, I will defer item 8.2, the North Long Beach expansion, and you could speak on that right after. We'll try to do two at a time here.
Sure. Thank you, Board President. 8.1 is about the FON. Academic Affairs works with Business and Administrative Services each fall to determine what the FON is. And the FON stands for Full-Time Obligation Number. And the number of full-time faculty we are required to have is dependent on our FTES, which increases or declines in any given year, which raises or lowers the FON accordingly. And we also have to take into consideration faculty who have retired or left for any number of reasons. So, and this is based also only on faculty teaching credit courses. Non-credit doesn't count towards the FON, which is another issue, but it's a bit of a problem for us. And the FON is not currently based on a 3-year rolling average the way that the FTES is, and we talked about that earlier tonight as well. If the FON were based like FTES on that 3-year average, we wouldn't need to be hiring anyone right now. But because we've had such an increase in our enrollment, we are now looking at a fairly high number of full-time faculty to hire. So when we worked with Vice President Drinkwine's area, the number of full-time faculty we're required to hire or we pay a FON on is 28. And so what we have decided at this point is to go ahead with 18 and to hold off on 10 of them. And on the second page of the document, you can see the reasons that we're holding off. We want to see if the FON does become a rolling 3-year average. We also need to see if we're going to continue to hold this FTES that we have right now, even in an era of declining enrollments. We seem to be a little different than everybody else right now. I'd like to think it's because we're working so hard. But we also don't know what's going to happen with the hold harmless. We don't know what's going to happen with this student-centered funding formula, which is being rebenched. There's just a number of things we don't know. So we were going to go ahead with the top 18. And just to be clear also, we work with the Academic Senate very closely, the academic affairs administrators, to determine what the hires should be in a particular order. We go through a lot of paperwork, we hear presentations, it's a very long, involved process. But we agreed on the top 18. We consult with Dr. Romali as the president because she has the ultimate authority for hiring. And so again, we've decided to go with the top 18. If we could hire additional people in the spring semester, which would then still count toward the FON, but if we don't hire anybody, if we opt not to hire a full-time hire, the fine on that is approximately $80,000. It costs us approximately $117,000 to hire a full-time faculty member. So it is a difficult decision. We prioritize 42 positions, so we can go into other areas and pick additional positions. The top 18 were positions we agreed on. After that, there was some difference of opinion about which positions we should hire because we're trying very hard to make sure that we hire full-time faculty in areas that are going to generate a lot of FTES. That needs to continue to be something that we strive for. And so you have the paperwork. I don't know if you have any questions, but the 18 positions are listed. It includes 2 counselors. And yes, Dr. Romali.
You did a great job. I just wanted to absolutely make it super clear this is 100% deficit spending. Right. This is a risky move. It's a calculated move. I'm nervous as heck about it. I'm on the record, but I firmly believe that you can't continue the growth that we make and play the game of the student-centered funding formula without those full-time faculty. We've hired them very strategically in areas we think will grow enrollment as well as, and bring our large college status back, as well as completions. So I want the board to be fully aware when they make this decision, yay or nay, that we understand this is 100% deficit spending, and it is a calculated move on our part that we believe is the right thing to do, not to say we're not nervous about it.
Thank you very much. Do you want to just go right into the 8.2?
Yes.
North Long Beach expansion? Okay.
Yes, thank you, Board President.
Could I ask you just a real quick question about
Sure.
what the timeline is for the possibilities of the 3-year averaging of the FON to go through? Is it, we're talking summer, do you have any sense, Marlene?
The concept of having a 3-year FON is one that's just starting to gather steam. I think we heard Dale Shimazaki say earlier how the Student Center Funding Formula statewide committee, the steering committee, is critical in this process. It could be a slow process. It could be 1, 2, 3 years until we get this solidified. But I think it's important to stress, not only as Dr. Romali said, that this is deficit spending, and that's important. We need to make our investments in areas that they will continue to grow our FTS for our future fiscal health. But I will also say that every full-time faculty we have is not just a dollar today. It's a dollar tomorrow and a dollar the next year. And so it's not just about the single year, how does it net out, but it's obligating the district to support those salaries on an ongoing basis. And so that is why when we looked at it, we felt it prudent not to go all the way up to the entire fund and obligate the district to that extent in an environment of such uncertainty.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Dr. Scott?
Yes, The next item is about the North Long Beach expansion, and we've reported on this to the board a number of times, but there's been a couple of updates, and so we've created another executive summary. This was presented to our College Planning Council at our last meeting, which is our governance and constituency group leaders, and it was very favorably responded to. They were very supportive of the idea of ensuring that we have a presence in North Long Beach. And we know also it's an important item for the board. In previous updates, we've talked about possible off-site locations in the North Long Beach area, such as the Michelle Obama Library, Carmelitos Housing Development, Crossroads Church, Fairfield YMCA, Houghton Park Community Center, and a couple of elementary schools that we're looking at going into. So we're looking at non-credit courses and possibly also credit courses as we build in that area. We have gone to various outreach events and got input from the community on what the community would like. They're very interested in computer classes, so we know that we would like to do that, and you just approved tonight one of the new non-credit computer literacy that could be offered. We do have to look at the logistics of putting computers out at the Michelle Obama Library, and we're doing that currently. They're also interested in security guard training and other computer courses. And then we would also have, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. So those are the courses we're looking at in various places within North Long Beach. So we had also talked about the city and their plans to develop an area called The Beat, which is very close to the Michelle Obama Library, and they have indicated that they would allow us to use lease-free for a couple of years a 3,200 square foot property that's adjacent to the Michelle Obama Library parking lot, and it does need significant renovations for us to be able to utilize it, but it could have a classroom. It could be used to have various events, welcome events, teaching the community about the college. It could have, and then we would also hold some SBDC workshops out there. So that we are continuing to be part of that planning effort, and VP Drinkwine has been involved in that, along with Dean Michelle Grimes-Hillman. They've been going out to have these conversations, and if you have any questions, you can certainly ask them. And then an additional update is that on November 19th, the Long Beach City Council approved a recommendation to authorize the city manager to execute an agreement with us, LBCCD, to provide free non-credit and certificate courses at the Michelle Obama Library for a period beginning in 2020, going through 2021, and the city would provide that facility to us free of charge for classes. So that was a nice notice that we got that the city did that approval. So we're very excited about the possibility of being in that area, sharing a space with the city, and just what we think we could do out in that area. We think we could make a difference to the community, and thank you.
Thank you very much. Any discussion on that? Trustee Antec?
Yeah, thank you so much for that update, and continue to follow up on this item. Really appreciate the City of Long Beach's commitment to putting in their budget and allocating funds to help us move forward. I also understand the landlord is willing to pay for tenant improvements, which would be upgrades to the facility as far as ceilings and structures and lighting fixture to get the site or the potential site up to par. It is adjacent or backs into the library parking lot, so it's almost like you can walk from the library through the parking lot or past the garden there into the building. You know, it's been an exciting thing that the community's been asking for a long time. I know we did, when we went through the racial justice profile of Long Beach, this had the highest potential of folks who needed AA degrees. And I'd just like to ask the next time we come back if we can put in our potential revenue generation. I know we talk about each student potentially has a dollar sign of $5,100 on their head when they come to campus, but and I know we're looking at restricted funds reallocating where they're delivered there on site, and so whether it's the outreach component or people signing up and taking classes, how much revenue will it potentially bring in, and then what's the larger revenue if we can use it as an outreach student generation hub to be able to pipe more students into the campus. Just one addition in the next report back. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any additional discussion? Trustee Zia?
I thought these were not for credit courses. Is that correct?
They would be non-credit. The not for credit is fee-based training through our workforce development. Non-credit goes through our curriculum process, but they're free, and they're completely free, and immigration status isn't asked, so anybody can take these non-credit courses.
And is it revenue generating?
Yes,
the non-credit. Okay,
it is
good.
and that they actually make more in some cases because they don't allow us to collect completion numbers, and the students are not on financial aid, so we don't get some of the student center funding formula points. So that is still funded at the $51.50 per FTES versus the $3,800 that they've gone down to for credit.
And the structure that Trustee Intuck was talking about, what can you expand on that? Is this something that we're how's the relationship as far as the structure and improvements on the any structure that's being proposed?
Thank you. We have had one meeting on site thus far with the City of Long Beach, the developer, and library staff because they're also very excited. I do want to clarify that we would be using the facility for less than 50% because under state law, if we use it for more than 50%, then the Division of State Architect will have an opinion about how we improve it. And that would delay the project by 12 to 18 months. But this actually is really beneficial because in the conversations with the library, their need is very similar to our need: a computer lab, a classroom, small, flexible meeting space. And so conceptually where we are right now is the city will hold the lease. They will absorb some costs, but we would be able to contribute perhaps items like computer lab equipment because we could provide funding for that through adult education or other sources. And perhaps we could then share that with the library as part of that partnership. I will share that I have a meeting this Friday with the city and with the library, along with Michelle Grimes-Hillman, so we can talk through some of these. We're going to be bringing our specific space needs. We're going to be bringing what our costs are when we furnish and equip a computer lab. And so this is going to be the conversation beyond the, oh, this looks great, these are great ideas. This is going to be, this is the reality, this is what we can pay for, this is what we can't pay for, and this is how the partnership would work out. And hopefully we'd leave that meeting with an idea of a regular schedule where the community can rely on us to have programs within that space, and we can identify some of those challenges because I can't imagine that we can solve that all in one, but I truly hope that in the short future we'll be able to bring back an agreement for your consideration.
Okay, yeah, I think this is a great opportunity, and I think it's something that needs to be expanded in other districts that are also disadvantaged. If we can look into that, once we have a successful model that actually comes to fruition, it sounds like it's on its way. I would be curious to see how much indeed we may have to contribute, and is that a decision that I'm assuming that's going to come back to the board and we're going to vote on it? Is that?
Absolutely. It would come back quite likely as a memorandum of understanding that would require board approval.
And when is the anticipated timeline that we have in mind or shooting for as far as the goal goes?
I think I could share more after this Friday.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, Trustee Antek, you had something to add?
I did just want to make one note that I know I think previous meeting, Trustee Zia brought up who the developer was. It is not Yankee Greenspan, who was not a donor of mine or I think a former donor for other trustees, but there's no one who has made any financial contributions or any conflicts of interest with the opportunity. This is purely evaluating open spaces in North Long Beach and partnering with the city, but just wanted to make sure for full disclosures there was no contribution or conflict of interest with any of the potential sites.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to item 8.3, the revised board policy, Dr. Scott, and then also if you can address 8.4. So we've got item 4024, 4025, and then these are all first reading informational items only. Item 4026, additional board policy. Would you mind addressing the three of those? Thank you, Dr. Scott.
You're welcome, Board President. The policy on program establishment, program modification, and program discontinuance, which is 4024, is just minor wording changes. That's the policy, and we would need board approval on this one. The administrative regulation, which is attached to it, and which is information, is an extensive document. And again, it deals with program establishment, how to establish a new program, instructional program, how to modify a program, and how to discontinue it if we should ever opt to want to go that way. And given the history at this institution, this is a very important regulation. And the Academic Senate, and particularly Dr. Koenig, who's in the audience, and the Curriculum Committee have spent almost 2 years working on this regulation to revise it. And it's meant to, there haven't been really significant changes, but it's meant to clarify our processes, particularly in regards to program discontinuance. And I can walk that through with you if you're interested in it. But program establishment, there's 3 basic things. That's at the beginning of the document. Program modification is in the middle of the document. How we change things that have, if we change the title of a program, the goals, the objectives, the units, things like that, it has to go through a particular process. But the big section is program discontinuance, which starts on page 3. And it talks about how if we were to be in this position, certain criteria would need to be in place. So the college could look at discontinuing a program if it met one of the 5 items that is listed on page 3 of the document, such as a sustained low enrollment over 3 or more years, low retention over 3 or more years, infrequent course offerings, a lack of demand for the program in the labor market, or the inability to transfer a program. So there are very specific things that would have to be at play here. And any one of them could create a process by which we would look at possibly discontinuing a program. So if one of those was identified, there would be an evaluation team that would be established that I would serve on, or the person in my position, the school dean, the department head, and the full-time faculty. And they would do some research. They would look at possible ways to support the program, to help the program if it weren't up to date or whatever the issues with the program were, and they would make a recommendation. And there's an extensive amount of information here, and I won't go through all of it, but the recommendation would go forward, and ultimately it would be the board's decision, and that was not changed in this document because it is the board's decision. But everything would be documented, and it would be very clear as to what the reasons for possible discontinuance were, what the research showed, what the evaluation team came up with, and what support was given to the program to help the program not have to go through this if it were possible to make it a more sustainable program, what was done or what could be done. And then again, it would come to the board for decision. And Wendy Koenig, the curriculum chair, is here. It can speak to this any further. I'm just providing the overview, but I haven't been involved in the 2 years of conversations about this.
Would you like to speak? I'm not seeing anybody. Okay, got it. Would you like to speak? Would you like to come forward and respond to Dr. Scott's I guess rationale that you haven't been involved in the process for the past 2 years? I didn't know what word I didn't want to say excuse, but rationale that she hasn't been here in 2 years. So she hasn't been involved in it for the 2 years that it was happening.
Thank you. Yeah, this was a tough job for faculty to engage in. A lot of the faculty who were on the subcommittee, this is the Academic Policies and Standards Subcommittee, which is part of curriculum, they had been here during earlier times, and so they wanted to be very, very mindful of making everything very explicitly clear in the regulation how the process works. They didn't want to be blindsided, or at least feel blindsided. So they did a tremendous job. We vetted it, we brought it to curriculum, we shared it with a number of people. And the other thing that we're doing, just as a side note, is this is supposed to also inform and improve our program reviews. Because we want to integrate most of our processes so that when we review our programs, people know how to review them to be better prepared if something like this is coming their way. So we're just trying to allow the faculty to be more engaged with the process, understand it, and also do their own reviewing, do a really robust evaluation of their own programs. So.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional questions, comments? Student trustee?
I just had a quick question about some of the proposed language changes in the administrative regulation. Specifically looking at the removal of items B through D on section 4024.3. Are you able to speak to, I guess, the removal of those clauses, specifically the item B, which exempts transfer programs?
So the language that is being included, the new language, includes all of the different types of programs that we offer here. So transfer programs, I guess one way to look at this award is really distinguish between degrees and certificates, which would lead to activation, versus programs like where there's not a degree, like maybe engineering where there's not a degree today, but right? So those programs for transfer are not the same kind of thing that we would discontinue. So I'm not really sure if I'm answering your question, but the language within the programs really account for sort of the big picture of how would we discontinue any program that was on this campus. So.
Okay, and I didn't see anywhere else here that would, I guess, that would provide any sort of exemption from discontinuance for transfer programs, or are you saying that that's typically not something that you guys would discontinue at all?
Okay, so the area you're looking at is actually about program establishment and not program discontinuance. So if you're looking at 4024.3.
You're correct.
Right, so when we create courses that transfer, usually it's the receiving institution that determines whether they accept those courses or not. So, the term transfer program is a little awkward. We don't, we typically talk about our degrees and certificates and not necessarily programs in that context. But this is the process by which we would actually establish programs.
Okay. And then the other question is more just kind of general housekeeping. I know there's no item A for 4024.4. It just goes directly to item B. I don't know if that was a typo or if there's another clause you guys are planning to insert.
Thank you for catching that.
No worries. Thank you so much.
Are you sure you want to leave us? Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay, thank you. And Kathy, there's the one.
Yes, thank you, Board President. 4025, the policy on academic and progress, probation, and dismissal has been just wordsmithed slightly. We must maintain standards of achievement through a process of academic and progress, probation, and dismissal. It's just basic wording changes. Nothing significant, and it's just an update. We just have to update it periodically, and we hadn't looked at it since 2007. The next one, 4026, is on academic renewal, and again, it's just wordsmithing it, and it too had not been updated since 2007. So we can answer any questions about these processes, but it's just basic cleanup and updating. And there are not regs attached with these.
Okay. Any comments or questions on any of these items?
In regards to a student trustee's question, we're going to try to make sure that the policies and the regs come through at the same time, but historically they haven't. And so the reg already came through and was for information fairly recently, and then the the policy didn't come with it. So going forward, we're going to try to bring them through together because it makes it clearer and easier for everybody. You're welcome.
All right, sounds good. Those are first readings, so we will see those again at the next board meeting. So now we're going to move on to Human Resources with Vice President Durand, item 9.1.
Sure, so I'll do actually 9.1 and 9.2. So these are changes to salary schedules based on the annual increase to minimum wage, which continues through 2022, as you see on the agenda. And so all it is striking out those wages that are under the new and updated minimum wage that will become effective on January 1st, which will be $13 an hour.
Sounds good, thank you. Any additional, now these are action items, so we do
please.
need to have a motion and a second for 9.1. We'll do one at a time. 9.1, we've got a motion by trustee
Second.
Untuck, second by trustee Zia. Any discussion? Motion has been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, item 9.2, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
Moved by trustee Otto, second by trustee Zia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And now we've got item 9.3, which is a first reading, new board policy 3037 for service animals. Any discussion on this?
Is there a new animal added?
No, not at all. So in our review of policies and regulations, we realized that this district does not have a policy on this or a regulation, which the league considers to be legally required. So what we're bringing forward are those. It simply complies with ADA as we are already and as we are required to.
So no one needs to have an animal with a designated vest or shirt that says they're...
So there is no nationally recognized certification for service animals. Generally, what's simply required is that they be under the care and control of the individual. Usually the vests are there so that individuals do not bother or molest the animals while they're serving the individual. The other thing that's important about the regulation is it lays out the only two questions that can be asked if someone has a concern if someone truly has an authorized service animal. So that's in the regulation as part of education. This is in human resources, though it absolutely covers not only employees, but students or any member of the public who's accessing our facilities, potentially with a service animal.
All right, sounds good. And now this is first reading. We'll see it again at the next board meeting. Item 9.4, this is the verification of eligibility. This is the new admin regulation 3036.
So again, another one that we don't have, so I'm going to apologize. The policy did not make it on this agenda. There should be a policy here as well. The district does not have a policy on only hiring individuals who are who we legally can, though that's obviously our practice. So there should be a policy attached to this. I'll make sure it makes it to the next one. And this is just for information, but it's new and it's legally required.
Got it, thank you. Now, just out of curiosity, I just would like to understand the process of how you discovered that these policies we were out of compliance, basically, that we didn't have policies to address issues that were required. How did you come about that?
So we go by the model policies that are on the league. In addition, we have a close relationship with LCW, who does all the model policies. We're working with one of my favorite partners there, Melanie Cheney, to ensure that we're going through that. So there's a review of all those things, and that's where we are. We're getting to them. You will see probably a few more before this year is over. Actually, before next year is over.
And how often do these regulations, are they revised or reviewed? For example, the fact that we were out of compliance with these two, maybe in another 3 years, we'll go through it again and find new ones, or how does that work?
Okay. And so one thing to remember is it's not that we were necessarily out of compliance with the way we were legally acting. It's simply that we did not have a board enunciated policy for the education of the public and the district.
Got it. Thank you for
that's
clarifying
what we're doing.
that.
We're just catching up with what we are doing anyway. Just to make sure that everything we have online is clear and people understand and have a resource for it.
Okay, thank you very much. And as far as how often this review process happens?
These things generally come up in the VP areas as we become aware of new legislation, new changes, ed code, new federal legislation. But we do try to do it at least on an every 2 to 3 year basis. But again, all of our areas are constantly changing, especially in California. We have a very active legislature. So we're always mindful of making sure that we're as updated as possible. Sorry, I have head cold to head.
Thank you. Trustee Otto, you wanted to say something?
Do you have a policy on head colds? I missed that.
Yeah, I think we need one today.
No, I was just going to say that it's an ongoing, forever process to update and modernize your policies and regulations. And by the way, it's something that the accreditors like to look at, and so we want to make sure, and we're doing a great job of getting all this stuff done and routinizing it in a way to happen. So we get it, and you're right, things change, and we need to be up to date. Great.
All right, thank you, Vice President Duran. And now we will go on to Section 10 on the agenda, the Administrative and Business Services. We've already discussed 10.1, and 10.2 is an action item. Now, is there language that we need to report out on?
No.
For closed session, or no action taken on that? Okay, so
Can I?
it is an action item, so I'm going to defer that to Vice President Drinkwine for 10.2.
Thank you. The item in front of you for your consideration is approval of a settlement with the Environmental Protection Agency regarding the cleanup of a super fund. This is historical in nature for materials that may have, that indeed Long Beach City College did pay a specific firm to treat back in the 1980s, early 1990s. The EPA has since declared the site of that firm that we paid to handle our hazardous material waste as a Superfund site, and this represents a settlement of costs related to that. The total settlement is $32,555.03.
Yeah. Oops. So I would move that the Board of Trustees accept the EPA's de minimis settlement offer in the amount of $32,555.03.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any discussion on that item? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 10.3 is another action item. Vice President Drinkwine.
Thank you. I'm happy to share that we did receive an offer for the sale of the property at Los Coyotes on 3325 Palo Verde Avenue. The item in front of you for your consideration is to approve the sale to the tune of $14,500,000. Excuse me, $14,500,000. Those thousands are important.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved. I move that the Board of Trustees approve the agreement for purchase and sale and joint escrow instructions between Long Beach Community College District and the Los Coyotes Diagonal Redevelopment LLC, and authorizes the Vice President of Business Services to make any final non-substantive revisions staff and legal counsel deem necessary, and to enter into and execute the agreement and open escrow for the property with the Los Coyotes Diagonal Redevelopment immediately after said execution as we've submitted. And,
Second.
I'm sorry. Trustee Otto made the motion. Trustee Untug did second it, even though he wasn't done making that motion. So.
Does he have to second it, the second part of it?
No, but it was just a very lengthy motion. So thank you very much. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I feel like we need to do a cheer or something. This has been a long,
I think
long
this one actually
process.
deserves a wave.
Yeah, this is a very big deal. This item has been on the agenda since I got on the board. It's been 3 years for this item. So,
Well, in all fairness, we've sold it several times.
so the motion passes. Thank you. All right, item 10.4. This is a resolution for the easements of the Boeing Company here at the LAC campus. We've had ample discussion about this with the underground wastewater. It's an action item today. Vice President Drinkwine, do we need any additional information?
No, I believe you have it. It is for a 630 square foot area of property that would allow Boeing to have an underground pipeline. It in no way will interfere with any construction or use of the area.
So moved.
Okay. We've got a motion and a second. Trustee Otto and Trustee Untuck. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 10.5 is another action item. This is the revised board policy 6006. And it is an action item for the telecommunications and network classroom technology.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion by Trustee Zia, second by Trustee Baxter. Any discussion? Vice President Drinkwine, you wanted to say something?
I just wanted to point out that this is a wholesale replacement of this policy.
I don't know what that means.
That means that when you look at the policy, you won't
Entirely.
see small areas revised. Because it had changed so much, and it's reflective of how quickly technology and how we react to it changes, we completely deleted the whole policy and replaced it with a new policy.
Got it. Thank you for clarifying that. Any additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 10.6 is an information item only, labor compliance community student workforce. This is our project labor agreement. Any information you'd care to share, Vice President Drinkwine?
I will share that I believe the Solis Group is doing an excellent job in monitoring our compliance with the CSWPA. And when you read through the quarterly reports, I believe you'll see that there are areas that they've identified that need addressing and that they are addressing them. And I think that's indicative of the excellent job that they're doing.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on to section 11 on the agenda for the reports, 11.1, Academic Senate President. Jerry?
Thank you. It's been a very busy but productive couple of weeks for the Senate, having encouraged all of the Senate shared governance committees to review their charge and memberships at the beginning of the semester to ensure that all committee members are reminded of the focus of the work and of the expected deliverables. We have received updated documents that are working their way through the process and ultimately will find their way to the College Planning Committee for approval. We've also reviewed attendance and, where appropriate, have asked committee members to indicate their continued involvement. Openings for committee membership have been forwarded to the Academic Senate, and so we will be preparing an all call to the faculty at the beginning of the spring semester, seeking new committee memberships. 40 faculty are signed up to participate in the cultural curriculum audit for the winter, during the winter intersession. It was very successful last summer and standing room only, so we're very excited about it. It will occur under the leadership of Suman Mandanari. She's our FPD coordinator, Dr. Wendy Koenig, who is our curriculum chair, and Matt Lawrence, who is our student equity coordinator. So we're excited about the ongoing involvement and evolving of curriculum and syllabuses. We're very excited about it. We sought letters of interest from faculty who would like to be considered as the faculty tri-chair for the Accreditation Steering Committee. This will be an oversight committee leading the effort of the college for accreditation. The Senate Executive Board reviewed the applications, and I took their recommendation to Dr. Romali to consult. I was very grateful for her insight, her expertise with accreditation. She offered wonderful insight as to what we can anticipate, how we should progress, the role of the Senate involved in this process, and I greatly appreciate that conversation. I learned a lot, and I thank you for it. The ultimate selection was made, and I'm very pleased to announce that Dr. Colin Williams will be serving as the faculty tri-chair on the steering committee. I always like to take a moment to promote the involvement of the newer faculty on campus, the younger faculty, and they are taking in college initiatives, and I'm very pleased about that. Colin was a member of the fabulous 42 new faculty cohort that is now 7 years almost. He is a librarian. He serves on the curriculum committee. He's SLO coordinator and is a senator who represents the LAC campus. He will do an outstanding job, and he has the complete commitment of the Academic Senate. The practice at Long Beach City College for college-wide planning is to have plans that begin in the department level, work their ways to the deans, and ultimately to the vice presidents. The VP planning committees are tri-chaired by the individual vice president, a member of the Academic Senate Exec Board, and a member of the Classified Senate Exec Board. Committee members include appropriate representatives from the various schools. In addition to it being a wonderful opportunity to learn about the different needs, challenges, and goals of the college, it reflects the commitment to shared governance. We are appreciative to have a voice at the table and be active participants in this endeavor. Finally, the John and Suzanne Roosh are leaders in the community college field and early proponents of the idea that teachers have major responsibility on how well students perform in the classroom. They have been partners and friends of the League for Innovation in the community college for over 35 years. What began as a working relationship with the founders of the League has evolved into a full-fledged partnership through collaborative efforts on projects of mutual interest and national concern. In recognition of the long tradition of excellence in the community college teaching and leadership, the League established the John and Suzanne Roosh Excellent Awards. These awards are open to League Alliance member institutions to celebrate outstanding contributions and leadership by community college faculty and staff. And I, on behalf of the Senate, would like to greatly thank Dr. Romali for her endorsement of LBCC's participation in this recognition, and just note that she daily acknowledges the outstanding work that is done by faculty to promote student success, and we are grateful for that, and we are grateful for you. I am honored to share this year's Faculty Roosh Award is Dr. Wendy Koenig. She too joined the college with the fabulous 42 cohort, served as a member of LBCCFA, is a current LAC senator and member of the Senate Exec Board, and last but certainly not least, and you got to hear her expertise tonight, she has done an extraordinarily stellar job as the curriculum chair. Under her leadership, more credit and non-credit classes have come from faculty through their departments and successfully navigated the curriculum approval process. Not an easy task. She is approachable, an outstanding teacher both in her art history classroom and in the often challenging world of curriculum development, and admired college-wide. Finally, there's much to celebrate across the college as the semester comes to a close. A very special thank you to Stacy Mungo and Dr. Romali for paving Lou Davis Drive. I can now take new tires and shock absorbers off my Christmas list. Greg will be very grateful. I hope that everyone enjoys a safe, restful semester break, a joyful holiday season, and that the new year continues to provide us many opportunities to serve the students who we care so much about. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jerry. And now our Classified Senate President, Cece.
Hello. I echo what Jerry said about accreditation. We're happy to be part of the process, and we're taking a little bit longer because we can in the next few weeks to be part of choosing our steering committee reps. I also echo what Mrs. Florence said about the Roosh Award, which I was a recipient a few years ago. The League for Innovation is an incredibly worthwhile an innovative organization. Many people don't know that we actually hosted their conference quite a long time ago. And I can't tell you who our nominee is because I haven't told the classified council the results of the anonymous vote yet, and I haven't told the person yet. So I think that's not going to happen tonight, right? So, Mr. Student Trustee, when you start your career, I feel sorry for your future colleagues because your conscientious and detail-oriented approach is going to make them work harder and think harder. I really appreciate and I'm in awe of the homework you do before you come to these meetings, and I wish you good luck in your future endeavors. I've been very impressed with you. So, besides integrating classified staff into the participatory governance process, the Classified Senate is also dedicated to ensuring that the classified professionals are informed about what's going on at the college and what's going on statewide. We do this partly to improve morale, to reduce confusion, and lessen the spread of misinformation. We do this to ensure that all colleagues are part of the process. Things work better when the entire college community works together on improvements, new programs, new construction, and community outreach. Whenever a new idea or new program is proposed, there needs to be consideration paid to unforeseen fallout, and that fallout often falls on to the classified professionals. We don't always do a good job in this area. There's a lot of moving parts. For instance, do we ask the people who are going to inhabit a space when we design a space? Not always. And everybody works really hard in this area, but it doesn't always happen, okay? The other thing to think about is the wealth of experience and knowledge that's right at your fingertips. Who knows the spaces at PCC better than the people who work at PCC every day? Who knows the way students interact with our facilities better than the ones that work in them every day? Participatory governance is not about controlling or holding up the process. It's about utilizing all colleagues, all of our intellectual capital, to ensure that things work better and are done right the first time. Dario put up the image. I always wanted to say that. So in closing, I wanted to talk about a new endeavor that we started called the Classified Close-Up, and this is a screenshot from Instagram. And if you look at it in Instagram, it continues on for 5 more images. And we just started doing it. This is our first person, and we're going to be highlighting and showcasing different classified employees and asking them questions. If you want to look at our Instagram, it's Classified Senate LBC at Classified Senate LBCC. But we're going to be presenting the Classified Close-Up in other ways as well. And it's already been incredibly popular. You can already see Dr. Reagan Romali replied here. And her department congratulated her, and that's what we were hoping would happen, is that we call attention to the real things that people are doing every day. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And now we'll move on to the Board of Trustee report. Trustee Otto, do you have a report this evening?
Nope. Just wish everybody a happy holidays and get ready to come back and do all the good work that we do here. I think that I lost a bet. I never thought this meeting would end before 9 o'clock.
Don't speak too soon. We've got 3 minutes, and we still have my report and Trustee Baxter report.
That's
so you're
right,
looking
and
at
I'm ready.
at least
sorry,
about a half hour.
That was wishful thinking.
You spoke too soon. Yeah. Trustee Untek?
Oh, I have a good report. No, I just want to say, give some updates and say thank you to staff. We had a really great Discover LBCC event in Bixby Knolls last month. I didn't get a chance to say thank you, but a couple hundred folks walked by, got materials. We had a good raffle for the watch giveaway. I want to say we had probably about 50 people that were anxiously waiting to see if they were going to get their Apple Watch. So it was very productive, and I got a number of good just community comments of thank you as well put together. So thank Josh and Marcia and their team for that. We did have one reschedule. We tried to do a Super Sunday at Antioch Church, and we got bumped by Kanye West.
No.
Really. I was supposed to do a little brief speech, and we had a table.
Freestyle.
And Pastor Cheney texted me the night before, we got a special guest. I got to bump you. I was like, it's fine. I'm coming anyway. And, I had a little Jesus Walks in real life song and his new album. So it's we will have to reschedule Josh on the Super Sunday. I want to congratulate our football team for winning the conference championship and their bowl game. It was quite an exciting game, and a number of videos, and I think it's going to help a number of our students get scholarships at the next level. There's been quite a few announcements of offers to a number of the players, so it's always great that we can, continue to see our athletic program be one of the academic successes and centers, and getting people real scholarships and real opportunities at four-year institutions. I also want to thank everybody who came out last month to the Economic Policy Impact Center Awards, or the EPIC Awards at Hotel Maya. I was recognized with Senator Lena Gonzalez and SIU California President Bob Schnoover as making a positive impact in Long Beach and the greater area region. And so it was in my Long Beach City College capacity that they recognized me. So thank you for everyone who came out and the good work we're doing here at the board. And lastly, had a good time at the Belmont Shore Parade last weekend. I walked the whole route 3 times from where I parked to where we start to all the way around and back to my car. So I got some good exercise, but it was really, I felt like a Long Beach reunion.
Yeah.
I saw people from elementary school, from high school, from when I went to school here, I used to work with. It was a really nice, I think, Long Beach-wide turnout for that. And my 13-year-old was really happy to hang out with her Mala'ulu cousins for the evening. They get along really well, and they passed out flyers
they
to
did
all
a
the
good
kids
job.
with the coloring diagram on the back of our, one side said 2 years free community college, the other side was a coloring. And so it was a good way to engage the kids. So that's all I have to report, and have a happy holidays, everybody.
Thank you. Trustee Zia?
Yes, thank you. I do have a report this time. It's not really common. But I wanted to mention that I did go to the groundbreaking event on December 9th for our parking structure at PCC, a design-build contract under the bond and under our community and student workforce agreement. I was proud to go. I did see the contractor represented there, and I think it would be nice to have members of the building trades invited, and also the carpenters, since they're the men and women who are building these buildings, and so that we could give them a recognition in person. And I appreciate the shout out that was given, but I think it would be nice to have them invited and represented. I also wanted to bring to the attention of my colleagues 2 things. On November 28th, New York Times published an article, and it's called Underwater Drones. It's Mars rover parts and a high-tech revival, and it's about the revival of manufacturing. And this is a fascinating article that is being that covered what's happening in New York, and it started at the college there, and it grew, and they're actually using old manufacturing warehouses, perfume warehouses, and warehouses akin to it, that they can actually work on building these submarines. And I think it would be a fabulous opportunity for us to really support these kind of endeavors with our career technical education programs, workforce development. I encourage all of us to look at that article. The company's name is Duro, and there's also others. It's not really isolated, that they provide underwater autonomous vehicles. And it's a fascinating read, and I think we can capitalize on it. They're for now focused on being in New York because they believe California, especially with Silicon Valley, it's too saturated as far as competition goes. But I want to put it out there, and we will welcome you in Long Beach, and Long Beach City College is open for business and collaboration and partnership. And I encourage staff and my colleagues to support an endeavor like this in Long Beach. I also wanted to encourage us, I want to have an agenda item on this item. Recently, PBS covered the initiative is called BARD Prison Initiative, and it brings colleges to prisons. This has been something that has been near and dear to my heart since I got elected. Cerritos College has a program that takes a college prison to college program, and I think it's very important for us to also look at this. It's a fascinating movie or a documentary, and these folks who are in prison are actually college is being brought to them, and the amount of results and the incredible success of this program is astounding. They're debating West Point grads and Ivy League grads. It's a fascinating documentary, and PBS is streaming it. So I definitely encourage folks to see it, and perhaps we can glean from the examples set by this institute, and perhaps adopt something here at the college and be able to, one, increase on our enrollment and really get creative in supporting our equity initiatives and lessening recidivism by way of programs like this, and having reentry programs that are meaningful for folks who are getting out of prisons or on their way on that path. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Trustee Baxter?
Yes, before I start my report, I just wanted to point out a couple of things. First of all, when I was hired in 1970 to teach history, we taught history at the Terminal Island Prison. We also had a culinary program. Jerry's nodding. Not because you were in prison. I don't want anybody to think that. So, and I mentioned to Dr. O'Malley just the other day that I thought that this would be a wonderful opportunity for us. We still have an institution at Terminal Island, and I'm sure that she's, based on my suggestion, has talked to Dr. Scott about it. Or we don't have classes right now, right? At Terminal Island. I'm looking at Kathy. No? Okay. But I'm telling you, it was funny because I just want to point out, I'm not that old. I was 23 years old, and the department had said, I don't want you going to a prison to teach. So that's why I ended up at LAC, PCC. Okay, secondly, we teach underwater robotics now, and Scott Frazier, who's the department head, has competitions, and I would imagine whatever school this is in New York has been in these international competitions sponsored by Long Beach City College. Each team of college students builds an underwater robot, because in California, we use them in the Port of Long Beach, I know specifically, to examine ships. And so I'm surprised Long Beach City College wasn't mentioned in this article. So Josh, I need you to get onto that. Okay, now my report. First of all, Trustee Vice President Untuck, I have a wonderful announcement that you can take care of. I'm a member of the Long Beach Rotary Scholarship Committee, and Don Cochran, who is a Long Beach City College graduate in our Hall of Fame, he attended Jordan High School. He has established an endowment for a scholarship to come to Long Beach City College, either in the 90805 district or the 90810 district, in other words, Cabrillo High School and Jordan High School. I think this is a wonderful opportunity for you to publicize, to get students to apply for this fantastic scholarship. And if he's at an event you may be going to tomorrow night and he's there, I thought maybe we could get a photo of you and Don. It's up to you. Yeah. What? Okay, very good. So I'll introduce you to Don, or maybe you already know Don. Okay, what have I been doing the last 3 weeks? I'm so glad you asked. I'm on the advisory board for the Todd Cancer Institute, and this is one of the most interesting boards that I serve on. We meet quarterly, and every quarter we have a presentation on cancer. This latest one was on immunology, using your own cells to fight cancer, and it's quite cutting edge and very, very exciting. I too was at the Long Beach Rotary Scholarship Luncheon at the Bistro. I was on the interview panel for these honors students, and we should be so proud of our honors program, because these are our future, and they're very, very sharp. And I don't want to say young people, because some were older and coming back to school. I also attended the CCLC conference, and I'll be giving that report on 11.4. I know you can all hardly wait. Attended the President's Holiday Party on Monday, Tuesday, whatever day, Tuesday. I was in Massachusetts, got off the plane, and came over to the fabulous party. Then I am serving on the Foundation Executive Committee, and then I also went to the Student Life Awards. I want to salute Dr. Munoz, that it went over quickly. It was the time before, it was not well organized. This award ceremony was very, very well organized. I'm skipping a couple of these. I know you can't believe that. In the Belmont Shore Parade, also the parking structure opening. Went to the Personnel Commission on Monday evening to watch former trustee Jeff Kellogg be appointed and installed on the Personnel Commission. The nursing pinning ceremony, which is always very much fun and exciting. And then I have one more thing, and I can't remember Dr. Romali, so if you said this, I'll take it back. Actually, I have two things. I want to salute an alumnus, Dr. John Bernard Duran, who has been selected for the National Community College Alumni Award. This is very, very prestigious. This is in the whole U.S. Trustee Otto and I know him personally. I knew him as a student. Trustee Otto knew him later in life. He is a super individual. I'm so proud of him because he was in the student life program, but also a scholar. And so he brought a lot of prestige to the fact that you can be involved in student activities and still do very, very well. He is very big also, by the way, in immunology. There's a gene named in his honor, and he will be honored March 30th in Baltimore at a national conference, and I would like to go to salute him, President Malauulu, if that is approved. And then the last thing I want to, no, it's not really the last, you know that, is I got a thing from Cal State Long Beach, which is fascinating because I've never taken a class there, but of course I'm on their mailing list, and they were raising money, Feed a Student in Need. 37% of our students face food insecurity. I don't know how many of this went out, but last year they had a tally. 5,637 students visited the food pantry. We have food pantries. We need to do something like this because we're doing great things too, and we don't want to keep all our achievements under our hat. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Pardon me? I'm the only one that got, well, I know why. It's because they still think I run the foundation, because I'm not an alum. Okay.
Thank you, Trustee Baxter. And I'm going to go to my report. I'm going to start on the Monday of Thanksgiving week, which is Monday the 25th. And Dario, if you can show that first photo there, please. So the reason why I want to show this photo, that's my son and I in the middle, and then later that evening we went back and it was actually my whole family. We didn't get a photo, but the reason why I want to show that picture, this is Councilman D. Andrews' annual Thanksgiving lunch and dinner. He feeds about over 1,000 residents for lunch and about 700 or 800 for dinner. And the one thing that I really appreciated is the different community and institution groups that are there. Here we are with members of the Cal State Long Beach basketball team, and there were also members of the volleyball team, male and female, men's and women's. There were other groups from the community, and I would just really love to see Long Beach City College student groups represented at these events. And I did actually reach out to our athletic director with a volunteer opportunity, and unfortunately we weren't able to get any teams to come out. But I want to show you how great it looked to have all of these university students there in their uniform, feeding the community. We bussed tables, we served. It was a great event. Overall, we spent several hours there that day. We left and came back. On Monday the 22nd, Monday, December 2nd, Trustee Otto and I attended the subcommittee meeting, the audit subcommittee meeting. And then on Tuesday, the 3rd, I attended Dr. O'Malley's wonderful holiday soiree, which was here in the lobby of the T building. I think it's such a great idea to have combined one all-campus event rather than having 16 or 17 different activities, which sometimes were a little taxing on the calendar, especially this time of year. I really appreciated only having the one. And I'd like to show the next photo, Dario. So in the middle of the wonderful LBCC carolers, there was a fire alarm. And it was so perfectly timed because I believe the carolers had just gotten to the line that said something like, you know, the fire is so delightful, or whatever the line was. It said fire, and then the fire alarm went off. So it was just perfect timing. And like every good production, the show must go on. The carolers did not skip a beat. They went outside, assembled on the lawn during the fire alarm, and continued singing, and the fire department showed up, and it was kind of a, you know, tongue-in-cheek joke because we were like, hey, you know, when you see people show up at parties in police or fire uniforms, your mind always goes towards something else. So it was an interesting event. The show continued, and then after the fire department cleared the building, we were able to come back in and resume the party. So great job to the carolers and to Dr. O'Malley for a very good activity. On the 4th, the next day, I attended Supervisor Janice Hahn's State of the County, and I too was there when she gave a shout out to Long Beach City College and the work that her staff here has done for our students. So it was just really neat to have that recognition. That Friday evening, Dr. Baxter and I made our annual meeting at the Kiesel Young and Logan Holiday Open House. We always meet at the same place at the same time.
Where the crab and shrimp are.
We don't plan it, but we always end up meeting there, and we always have this little caucus in this corner there watching people hit their head under a stairwell. True story. On Saturday, the 8th, I attended a Centro Cha event that included NALEO, which I am a lifetime member of, regarding the census. And I was able to make some connections there, both with NALEO and Centro Cha, to make sure that LBCC is included in the census for next year. And I have a ton of information for jobs, for students, paid positions that they are hiring census takers and in the community. So we will definitely make sure we get that information out. And then that night was the Belmont Shore Parade. And Dario, if you could show that next photo. So that's my husband. And he and Trustee Untuck and Trustee Otto and Trustee Baxter walked. I don't usually walk the Belmont Shore Parade because my mom is with us, and my mom will not be able to walk the whole route. So I ride in the float with her, which is great because everyone thinks I'm singing with the carolers. So it's a great disguise for me because they think I'm singing because the carolers are with us. My mom and I, we just, we pretend to sing. But usually my family will ride in the float with me. Well, this time my husband decided he wanted to walk, and I did not ask him to do this, but he is a rock star. Allow me to boast for a minute because he walked the entire route. He was distributing flyers, Trustee Untuck, the kids, and I was just, it's one of those moments, right? You just kind of look at him and go, I didn't even ask him to do that, so it's kind of neat. Okay, on Monday, I attended the groundbreaking of the new parking structure at PCC, and I know a lot of you aren't aware of this, but I had been very, very sick that night and that morning, and I'd asked Stacy and Camille to please put a trash can next to my chair. It was that bad. I was able to hold it together until I made it back to work, so it was pretty bad. But here I am with Joan Greenwood, who is one of my constituents and Wrigley neighbors, and she is on our bond oversight committee, and I just want to give her a shout out. I don't know if you've noticed her, but she attends so many LBCC events, and she's often here at our meetings for no other reason other than she loves this college. She donates to the foundation monthly, and she shows up at events like this. So I just really want to recognize Joan and acknowledge her, give her a shout out, let her know how grateful we are for her service. And last night I was at the nurse pinning ceremony, and what a fantastic event. They presented the first student ever to receive the vocational nursing Award of Excellence, which was very nice. And Trustee Baxter and I and Vice President Scott and Vice President Duran, we heard probably some of the best speeches we'd ever heard. They're just really good. Not Duran, Creason, I'm sorry. Sorry, the other Gene.
You look just like him.
But I saw you looking like I wasn't there. So you're right, it was Paul Creason, you're right. It was just a great event, and the speeches, it's just such a heartwarming event. I love the nurse pinning ceremony, and I think I've just about covered everything. I'm looking forward to the Daisy Lane Parade this weekend, and I'd like to wish everybody good luck on finals. Have a very happy holiday season. Enjoy your family, enjoy your downtime, enroll in winter session, and we'll see you guys all Saturday night at Daisy Lane. Thank you. So now, Trustee Baxter, I believe that you attended the CCLC conference.
Yes,
We'll move on to 11.4.
Yes, I did, and here is my report, because I want to go till 9:30 in case Trustee Otto has, another bet with himself. I would like to thank the district for sending me to the November CCLC conference in Riverside, November 21 to 23. The theme was Exploring Possibilities, Discovering Our Success. On Thursday's opening session featured Chancellor Eloy Oakley, who discussed current issues in the system. His ending remarks featured 3 community college students, a DACA student, a formerly incarcerated student, and a homeless student. The homeless student was a young man named Terrence Williams. He's ASB president from Laney College. Terrence is receiving free on-campus housing. I received his card and believe the basic needs coordinator connected with Laney when she attended the homeless conference last week. At least I hope she did. Friday morning, Bryce Harris, former chancellor, had a session on retaining community college CEOs. The average tenure is 6.3 years. He listed the reasons for CEOs leaving the system based on a survey from Wheelhouse, President Romali. I hope you beat that average by more than 6.3 years. Bill Scroggins, who's the CEO of Mount Sac College, led a panel on institutional practices to increase student-centered formula performance outcomes. Very, very well done. In the afternoon, I attended a session, Strategies Using Financial Aid for On-Campus Student Housing at Sierra College and Santa Rosa College. And they use a corporation that's called Servitas, who is also interested in helping LBCC develop a program. There's also a local company called Link Housing, does the same thing. So what they do is they build the housing, and that takes away part of the liability from a college and has some appeal. I cannot say anything more because we have an RFP out, so I don't want to sound prejudiced. The late afternoon, Riverside City College presented Concurrent Pathway to BSN through Riverside City College and Cal State Fullerton. This is a fabulous program where, it would match our program. They count the years of all the prerequisites the students have to take. Then when the students actually get in the nursing program, it's 8 units, just like our school. And then at the same time, they take a 3-unit course at Cal State Fullerton, fall, spring, and then 1 semester, and they have a BSN. So that is a very quick route. And our nursing department head, Sigrid Sexton, has been in communication with them. I hope that we can work on that. And again, I don't want to put ideas in people's minds. Lastly, Saturday morning session was leveraging state and federal resources to fight college student hunger. Have you got an idea that my interest was in student insecurity in housing and food. LA City College has a wonderful partnership with area programs using on-campus and foundation staff. They counsel students on how to apply for CalFresh, how to file their income tax returns so they can get an earned income credit. They distribute food weekly at a fair at which they feed 500 to 1,500 students every week. This food comes from restaurants, food finders, grocery stores, etc. The Chancellor's Office also, the State Chancellor's Office also has 2 representatives working on student homelessness. I think this is fantastic. And then lastly, the closing session featured Dr. Rashida Crutchfield from Cal State Long Beach. She is on Sunny and my advisory committee, who talked about food insecurity on campus, and it was very, very well done. Thank you for sending me. I printed this out, and I think I'll hand it to Jackie, and that is my report.
Thank you, Trustee Baxter. And for trustee committees, Trustee Otto, could you give us a lengthy report on the Labor Center Ad Hoc Committee, please?
Sure. In the beginning, there was an idea. It was shanghaied by the faculty. They wanted to do this all by themselves, but we're going to let them be on our ad hoc committee, so it's all going to work out. That's my report.
All right, sounds good. Are there any other trustee committee reports? We get a little goofy when it's this late, so pardon us. All right, so moving on to section 12 on the agenda, full disclosure, there was a Long Beach resident who did email me around 7 p.m. tonight. She wanted to come and address the board about an issue. Unfortunately, she was not able to stay, so I have forwarded that communication to Dr. O'Malley, Dr. Vice President Drinkwine. I believe it falls under their purview. So we did have one item under public comments for non-agenda items, and I just want to be transparent and let the lady who submitted it know that I did receive it and forwarded it. So hopefully somebody from the college will be able to respond. And we do have a second closed session, as I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting. Let me make sure I remember correctly. We are going to begin with item 1.7, go to item 1.8, item 1.9, and 1.10. So we do have 4 items in closed session. And I'd like to also acknowledge Dr. Cepeda, who has been here. She is performing our superintendent president evaluation. She's been patiently sitting through the whole meeting. And she lives out of town, so she's got to fly back tomorrow, but she will remain for the closed session. So maybe we can bump your item up and get you out of here. Thank you, thank you. So at this time, I'd like to adjourn. It is 9:27. We are adjourning our regularly scheduled meeting. Sorry,
Excuse me,
Jackie.
Madam President, are any of those items reportable out after?
Let's see.
You have media staff who would.
So 1.7, nope, it's a discussion item. 1.8, perhaps. It is discussion action. 1.9 is discussion possible action, and 10 is discussion. So there might be some reporting out. Okay, our next regular scheduled meeting of the board will be held January 22nd, 2020 at the Pacific Coast Campus in room Q112, closed session at 4:30, open session at 5:30, and it is 9:27. I now adjourn this meeting. Thank you.
Hopefully I can finish out. I'm at 99.4 next.
You got it.
About the 14th Amendment.
It comes right after the
how it
13th.
actually does it, you know.